Happy Memorial Day to all our friends in the U.S. and to everybody else. Happy Monday. John Boyega says he'll return to Star Wars with certain terms and conditions. And J.J. Abrams says the obvious. Should have had a plan. Should have had a plan. Should have had a plan this whole time. We all knew this. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome, Andre. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you, and good morning to you. And again, congratulations. Happy Memorial Day to all our friends and viewers in the great US of A.
Mainly, it just means a day off, but I think this year and recent years, it's starting to resonate a bit more because, these are the kind of holidays that seem to be problematic.
Actually, you know what? On behalf of everyone who is watching that is not from the US, and we do have quite an international crowd. See, we have here, who is in the US, Dash D's representing Canada, and Natasha is here representing both Canada and the Netherlands. Etienne Falardeau is here, and Curtis Burkhardt is here. And I also believe I saw Mags in here. Mecca J is here. Six is here, wondering, what did I miss? Well, nothing yet, but we'll catch up because so much happened last week that we could barely cover any of it. So we'll do some catch up today. And we have Gran Wasu 42 here, Dragon Master 360 is here, and many, many others. So greetings all. The Dead DC is representing the UK. We have Inosuke Hashabira from Canada, Chris McAvoy from Ireland, and Jakub Romanski says hello, Tom, and hello, Andre, and therefore we also have Poland represented. Kitty Bear is worried that he's late, but no worries, we're late too, so you haven't really missed out. So it's all good.
London, we got Colombia, we got.
Oh yeah, here we also have
California
and Australia says g'day, mate. And Nico Pursainen is here from Finland. That's amazing. Greetings, my Nordic brother.
We got one from Kanukistan, which I think is Canada.
Yeah, and we also have someone from California, which I think is in LA. If I'm not
that would probably be, well, the whole state. Dragon Master, hey, Dragon Master's dad says, dude, my dad is in the room with me. Why?
Yeah, well, greetings, Dad.
There's something you're supposed to be doing. Are you supposed to be mowing the lawn, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, well, remember, you can also listen on the go. Just put on a headset.
Absolutely.
And of course, so in addition to California, we also have the free state of Florida, represented by Oliver Glossov. So that's great. Miguel Farah wonders if Chile counts. Yeah, of course Chile counts. Six wonders who is from Finland, and Finland. Yeah, big yourself up in the chat again.
I really like chili with cheese.
Yeah, and
you said Chile.
And we have Northern Ireland. So yeah, awesome. Texas is here, brilliant. And we have Jesus Rosado. He has some words of comfort for the people of California, saying he's from Venezuela and communism worked great for us. Yeah. It's good to have some humor.
Well, it is a holiday here in the States, but everywhere else it's a Monday, like I said. So there isn't a bunch of big news like you brought up, but there was a lot of stuff that we didn't get to talk
before
about.
We get into that, though, my point is that there's loads of people here that are not from the US of A, whether that be California, the free state of Florida, or anywhere in between. So tell us, what's Memorial Day really all about?
Well, Memorial Day is actually the day where you, respect the memory of those who were lost in war. And I mean, I'm sure you could expand it beyond that if you want to, but that's the initial, at least my understanding of the holiday. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those days where you're specifically paying more homage to those who were lost than, like, say, Veterans Day, where it's just, you know, those who served. But yeah, if anybody else knows more, please tell me in the chat. It's never been a holiday that we really concentrated much on in school, because it was usually like we got out of school just before it, you know, like, or it was like the last week of school. So like nobody ever paid attention to that.
Yeah, to me it sounds like a standard bank holiday in the UK, which is their code for the everything is closed and never mind what the actual day is about. But normally, even though, just from your description, though, it still sounded like something that a certain set of people might find problematic.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was, yeah, that was my always understanding of the holiday, as Gulgo points out here too. But normally, it just felt like it was always one of those things that kicked off the summer in the U.S. But like I said, in the last few years, it feels like the holiday's taken on a bit more meaning. The more and more things become problematic. I'm waiting for the day to be changed to something else.
Yeah. Well, before that, Miguel Farah wanted us to mention him. So Miguel Farah, with a nice Enya in his logo. So hope you are happy. We aim to please.
Speaking of mentioning people, I saw we did have some super chats.
We did. We were started off by Dwayne Olson, who for $5 says, watched Dune 1984, the alternative cut redux on Andre's recommendation. Damn, that was good. Better than even the sci-fi miniseries. See, I told you. And I'm so disappointed in Universal that they just don't choose to basically recut in 4K the alternate cut redux and release that as the special extended edition, because that is the definitive edition of the movie.
Yeah, what's weirder is it's not even really Universal putting it out. They're amortizing their 4K print through Arrow is what they're doing.
Yeah, all the more reason that Arrow, you would think that they would be in touch enough that they would see, you know what, let's do what they did for the Odyssey cut of Waterworld, and see that here there actually is a vastly superior cut to work with, and let's just reconstruct that in 4K. We have the material. A fan did this in his spare time. I mean, how long could it take professionals to restructure it? And
you can do it with off-the-shelf shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was done with off-the-shelf shit. That's exactly right. And the pros, if they wanted to, they could reconstruct that in 4K with rendering time in a month. And that's even pushing it. Like it. Cut itself, they could do in a week.
Well, yeah, because the beauty is you can composite anything you had to composite, because with computers now it's so much easier than it used to be with optical. And the main, special effect is the eyes glowing. And you can do that so easily now with computers. It's just, you can do it with your phone.
Yeah, like the fans did it on the phone in the alternative cut redux. That's like what's so embarrassing here. And it looks like the definitive version of Dune is going to remain that one. The 480p DVD 9 version is going to be the highest quality version available, which to me is a shame, because it only goes to show that the 4K version, what's the point of it?
The only other reason I can see why they're doing this is perhaps they may not have all the original footage. It could be one of those situations, especially considering it was a De Laurentiis production. They might have all the negatives. So like they may have tossed anything that wasn't the actual negative to the. This is not uncommon up through the 80s. So like I would not be fucking surprised, Andre, if the case was that they just don't have the shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure that those few inserts that are in really crappy VHS quality, they can find a way to reconstruct.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you, but yeah, that could have been the reason. I'm not giving them an excuse, but I'm willing to bet, knowing that they've done that with Waterworld, and Arrow is like, basically the equivalent of Shout, if not better, over, coming from overseas. So like, to me, I can't believe they wouldn't have if they couldn't have. And being that Arrow is, I believe, based in the UK, that knowing that this film means more over there, and that cut has been available in other places, more like, because there even is like a TV cut that is on one of the DVDs that was released that is basically kind of similar.
It's on Blu-ray even.
Yeah, so like, but that might be because they have like then the reason I bring this up is like, okay, recently they did the TV version of King Kong on Blu-ray. Remember the 76 one? Well, what they have is they have an actual like print of the movie from back in the day that they used to make the prints for the television version. So that's how they were able to scan it. They don't have the actual negatives for those deleted scenes. So unless there's something that's of decent enough quality, then that's probably why they didn't bother with it. Or it would look a lot like the Exorcist 3 cut, which you and I are fine with.
Yeah.
But I think other people would complain. That's possibly why.
I think they would complain far less over that than.
And then you also have all the things you have to get signed off from people that weren't necessarily in the movie proper, that were in the deleted scenes. And there's a lot of legalese that goes into that shit, I'm sure, too.
In other words, we're going to stick with the alternative of a cut redux.
For now.
For now. But moving on a little bit, I also see that we have people joining us from Texas.
Now that I put everybody to
Hungary,
sleep.
From Brazil, and from Portugal. So, awesome. It's so awesome to see so many from all over the world. 6 even says salve. And indeed, salve everyone in the chat.
And I think that might even be a similar reason why when we got Superman on 4K, it was just the theatrical cut, not the extended cuts. That might be a reason why.
And moving on to the next super chat, we also have Diego in Lima, Peru, which is also Rob Altis from the foreign country of California. And Clifton says Guten Abend from Deutschland. So
quit swearing.
To have you here. Yeah. Well, Gesundheit. So,
for that too. Yeah, quit sneezing in the chat. Cover your mouth now.
And we have Eastern Canada.
Jesse says he's from Congo.
Jesse is from Congo. Greetings, Jesse.
Congo.
And we also have Ontario. So then we have many places, and Montreal. So we have many places of Canada represented. Sontar says. Exceptional Indy 500, Spider-Man Castro Neves 4th win.
Well, congratulations.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. And Ralph Mack wonders, Aussie accents on point, lads. Are you voice actors? Well, maybe Tom. I'm stuck with the one.
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
Yeah. And Roger H sent us thumbs up super sticker. So thank you so much for that. And Darius Münchhausen and Gran Wasu 42 both sent us popcorn super stickers. So thanks so much for that. Olaf von S also represents the Netherlands, so that's awesome. Yeah, and we have Brazil in the chat.
He also points out that I can do voices. Yes.
Let's see if we can get more up on screen here.
Did we have any more super chats?
Yes, we did have a couple of more. Stephen Otten says, remembering my father this Memorial Day. He served two tours in Vietnam. We lost him in March of 2018. His ashes were interred in Arlington National Cemetery the following October.
Very sorry to hear that, Stephen. But yeah, that's my understanding of what this holiday means.
Yes, and that
right there gives you the best example.
That sums it up, and I think that is perfect, and it's a beautiful holiday that is to be celebrated. To those that served and gave everything so that everyone else could have their freedom. So massive kudos to your father, Stephen Otten, and respect to everyone else who is being celebrated this and all other Memorial Days.
And Jesse pointed out that he's out of YouTube jail.
Nice.
I guess he got in trouble and he's not able to stream for a little bit there, but I think today he's able to. So congratulations on that, Jesse.
Very glad to see you back again.
There's been a few people who have been getting hit with, this whole YouTube thing with has me a little worried with them going after old videos. That is some BS. Ones that you've deleted and crap and everything like that. because like I pointed out, like I've used Midnight's Edge After Dark as testing ground for, main video stuff to see if we can, if we're going to have problems with the bots, and now I'm just like, what the hell? This is going to be bad.
Yeah, well, those are unfortunately the rules of the platform, so we just have to work by them. The good thing is that those are just like copyright things. They're not the kind of things I think that
I'm not so worried. Right. They're not like community guideline strikes and things of that
sort. Exactly.
But that still opens that door.
Oh, that door was open the whole time. Not saying that's a good thing, but that's nonetheless how it was. And moving on, Spider Unlimited. I can no longer bring this up on screen, but Spider Unlimited says for $9.99, thank you so much, Memorial Day. Day of mourning and remembrance, and to be thankful for those who sacrificed their lives in the line of duty to preserve our freedom. Now, mainstream media and shills have ruined it. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that, because that's a beautiful holiday.
And then we got a super chat here from Golgo13 that we can bring up on the screen, aka Brandon the Infinite Wolf. Says, thanks to all who served here in the chat. Be well. And yes, anybody in the chat who has served, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That can't be said enough. And I believe we had... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will also like to say, like, on behalf of many of those around the world whose freedom is actually dependent on the American military service. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
And then moving on, says, hello, gents. Hello, everyone.
Well, hello.
Indeed. Greetings. And Ash Aaron also sent us a smiley with shades super sticker, so thanks for that.
You know what? I nominate for a wrench if she wants one.
What I think she already does.
Oh, she already does? Okay, well then. Yeah, I can't see that on my end, so it's not that I'm ignorant, it's just we can't tell over here. All I can tell over here is if you remember or not. That's just, they got to fix that on StreamYards.
Yeah, there are things that absolutely could be better with the software that we use, but we're not going to complain about that. Lord Ra says, looks like we're going to have to Surfshark that cut of Dune. Yes, indeed, that's one way of getting it. It's also available here on YouTube. Be advised, though, that's like the lowest resolution version that's available. Otherwise, yeah, this is kind of like what Surfshark is for. And with that, I do believe we are... No, I'm not.
We're not quite
caught up. Yeah, Hypergiver 2 says, sorry I'm late, guys. Oh, no worries at all. Spending my Memorial Day remembering friends I lost in Iraq with a bottle of mead and indulging in our shared passion making dice.
Wow. Right, well, brilliant. We're happy you're celebrating the day, and we're glad you could be with us. I wasn't even sure if we were going to do a show. Like, we have an international audience, so we're like, yeah, we should. But what we're going to do, like we said, getting back to the main topic, we're going to cover some smaller topics first. I wouldn't say they're small in like the sense of what being said, but I mean, what can we say about some of these things that hasn't already been said?
The only thing we can say is that we had so much happening last week. We didn't have the opportunity to cover it all, so we'll do some catch-up today. But before then, though, also says, for all those that have served, for my father and grandfathers, thank you for your service. Yes, indeed.
Jesse says he doesn't have a wrench here.
Oh,
I know he does on me.
Yeah. No, we'll fix that. Let me just see that. I just give me one moment and I'll fix that right away. In the meantime, Tom, why don't you tell us about the John Boyega story? What is up with that?
Well,
give us the summary.
I don't know the specifics. Let me bring up the story here because I don't know who asked him, but this is in Entertainment Weekly. Let me bring up the story here, and I'll go through it real
Yeah,
quick.
it's actually from an older story.
Yeah.
So this is a comment that was made some time ago. It's only very recently that this comment was discovered and came back to light. So basically, it's a video clip where he was asked if he had any interest in coming back to reprise his role of Finn in any future Star Wars project. And just that, of course, is interesting, because that treats it like an open secret that everyone knows that the sequel trilogy is dead. There's no demand for it. It's a creative failure. And yes, you can say that each of the movies crossed more than $1 billion, although the third one barely limped past it and was even defeated by the Joker. But here's the thing, they should all have been $2 billion movies, not $1 billion movies.
Well,
and
I
that
think
they weren't, and that he even now has to talk about under what circumstances he would return. That's pretty...
Well, here's the thing I think that's funny about this and the JJ story. I do think they're connected. And I was doing some thinking about it because, normally we're like, oh, these mean something. When they bring out certain stories like this and they point out certain things in interviews and really highlight specific things, they're either preparing us for something or, you know what I mean? Like, we've been kind of thinking, well, maybe it's time they're going to start saying that, KK's on her way out. But I've noticed something recently with this last round of stories. It's kind of, I think where we're going here is we're going to find out that there is going to be no Rian Johnson trilogy. That's what they're going to eventually let us know. There's going to be some changes. And I think that's what these last two stories with J.J. Abrams and now this John Boyega story are all about. Because look at this headline. The story is basically in the headline, as you're pointing out. John Boyega says he's open to Star Wars as long as Kathleen Kennedy and JJ are involved. What name did he leave out?
Yeah, there's only one name that was left out there, and that was a very strategic one. Rian Johnson. That name was very strategically left out.
And then what do we get with this other story that we're going to talk about in a few minutes? JJ talks about the plan being tossed out, basically, or there was no plan. But who was the main reason there was no plan, Andre?
Yeah, that would have been one Rian Johnson. And remember, this fits right in line with what our good friend Kamran Pasha has predicted all along.
Yep.
This is the forces now gathering to protect the image and the legacy of Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams, who still has a future.
Yep.
But Rian Johnson, along with a couple of others, are being thrown under the bus.
Yep. And yeah, like Gordon Davis said, what is he going to do? Do another show where all he does is sit there and scream Ray for 30 minutes? Like that. No, but I think he's clearly made his feelings be known on this. And the reason why I think he includes Kathleen Kennedy is because he's not stupid. He knows that she is somebody you got to, name drop. They had their little quote unquote meeting where John Boyega taught Kathleen Kennedy how to be more non-racist, I guess. I mean, so I'm sure that's another reason why he's bringing.
Yeah, she had to go through like her own walk of shame, only slightly less public.
Exactly.
Than you have. What's his face? John Cena. He had to do like a very, very public walk of shame and excuse to China because he insulted the absolute biggest fish in the pond. But yeah. But still, Kathleen Kennedy, we know that after Boyega first started talking out, we heard that Kathleen Kennedy had been on the phone and had a long conversation with him, in which I'm sure there was plenty groveling.
He confirmed it, I believe,
for forgiveness. Yeah, he did confirm it. He didn't confirm that there had been much groveling and begging for forgiveness. But that was kind of like the implied part. And it was in the aftermath of that phone call that he says that he would be very happy to return for Kathleen and for his boy JJ, but not so much the person not mentioned.
So yeah, I really don't need to get into too much of this. Like we kind of basically pointed it out already what it's all about, and frankly, I don't think there's anything stirring with Finn. I don't think there's going to be any series. I don't think that he has any plans to return. Honestly, I don't think Boyega is as concerned about his career as other people right now who are claiming racism against their superiors in the industry. But what I do know is that I don't think he's going to have a problem going forward, because he's not making the same kind of salacious claims that, you know, Kryborg was. We were the ones who've been pointing out this shit for years, that they've been treating him this way, and that the character was basically tossed to the side. And it's clear. And that even kind of takes us into the next part of the story, where it was very clear what JJ had kind of in mind for this character, and he really tried to bring it back in the last film, which was too late by then. But again, it just, I feel bad for John Boyega in a lot of ways. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I don't think there's any reason to feel bad for him per se, well, because he's doing pretty okay for himself.
No, I feel bad for the fact that us as fans
coming and everything, but yeah, I do feel bad for him in the sense that he was obviously promised a much bigger story arc to begin with. Instead, he was sidelined massively in the second movie, directed by Rian Johnson. Now, how much of that was Rian Johnson subverting expectations?
All of it.
Just to be nasty, and how much of it was China giving the feedback? You know, we don't like these people in the posters or in the movie. Can you reduce their presence? That may have been a component to it.
Well, and I think that's a main component as to why why his character and Rey didn't wind up together as well, like they were meant to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, because stop and think about it. That also kind of feeds into JJ's whole triad thing, or what a dyad, or whatever the fuck it is they're called, the diodes, or what, you know, where there's two of them. You know, the whole thing.
Yeah. Like the Force appears in twos, basically.
Yeah. And that was like, and that's where I brought up the joke before, and I don't think it's so much a joke as I'm being serious when I've said, you know, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker are two directors having the world's most expensive Twitter fight.
Yeah, yes, it's like so funny.
It's true, because it's like Rian Johnson go, oh, that was cute, let me ruin that. And then J.J. Abrams going, you fucking ruined my story, now let me ruin yours. Yeah. You know, that's really all it was. And it's funny because I showed you, you know, that comic I found or whatever, and I tweeted it out, and holy shit, it has gotten a lot of people stirred up. Do you want to take a guess at how many people have liked that by now?
Well, I don't know, but I'm sure not.
I'll bring it up for you.
So feel free to bring it up.
Yeah, over 3,000 people have shared this. Or liked this. I mean, not shared it. Quite a few have shared it as well. But it has started a firestorm of fights. But I find it so accurately true. And I've had to explain why. And I think we just did. And that was because, you know, JJ did at least have a plan, as bad as it was going into it. And Rian Johnson just sabotaged it. But instead of actually fixing Star Wars, what did JJ Abrams do with Rise of Skywalker? He just came in and destroyed it. Yeah, instead of actually making a good movie.
But here's like the thing, that's J.J. Abrams' entire MO, isn't it?
Yes.
He's someone who goes in, he starts stuff, he puts in a ton of mystery boxes, and then he has no plan on how to actually finish this, and he buggers off. Yep. Or if he has a plan, it's a very, very loose plan, then it's someone else's problem. He got people excited, then it's up to someone else to do anything more about it.
And as I pointed out to a few people in chat before it just got way out of my hands, I pointed out, like, look, the Duel of the Fates script proved that regardless of how bad the first two films were, there was a logical ending here that made sense and wrapped things up kind of nicely in a bow. But what did JJ do? No. JJ had to destroy what Rian did and then just continue to try and reinsert what he wanted to do in the first place. Because I can kind of tell everybody, like, look, this is probably what, if you take out the Palpatine crap, that's probably what JJ had planned on doing for the entire trilogy. What we got in the first film and Rise of Skywalker. If you just take out The Last Jedi.
Yeah, of course. And I think the funniest thing was like, I do not remember the exact words, but you have like this whole thing with Admiral Holdo ramming another like Star
Oh,
Destroyers,
the
whatever this thing is called,
hyperspace thingy. I can't remember. The
in like
Holdo
light
maneuver,
speed.
yeah.
Yeah, the Holdo maneuver, and then in the next movie they even put on screen. They even like say it out loud that
That it was stupid.
Admiral Holdo was an incompetent fool, and that was billion to one shot, and we'll never do it again. We'll never
Yeah.
talk about it. It never happened. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was kind of
Yeah,
like
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
It was kind of like that moment in Spaceballs when they were like rewatching the videotape and
What the hell am I
the
looking at?
videotape. And he says, like, we're never to talk about me making a fool out of myself again.
Fast
It
forward
reminded me
past
of
this.
that.
In fact, don't ever show this again.
Exactly. That's kind of
no, and it's sad that this whole thing has turned out to be like a big Spaceballs type incident. Like, man, I almost wish the movies were worse so we could make fun of them, like Spaceballs, because they're just sad. And I'm sick of talking about Star Wars, kids. Let's be real. Like, I am so done and over with it. It's sad. It's gone. Speaking of Memorial Day, I mean, I guess that's the perfect day to talk about it then. It's not to be facetious, but like, God, is there any hope left in the bottle, kids? I really wonder. I mean, are you even still excited for Star Wars? If you're still excited for Star Wars, give me a 1. If you just don't give a shit anymore like me, give me a 2 in the chat. I'm just curious. I want to see. But I know we had a couple super chats coming in the meantime, Andre. Like this one,
we did. We
from
did.
Grand Wazoo 42.
Exactly, and he says for €10, thank you so much. It sounds like Boyega needs a job. Maybe blacklisted after his latest remarks with the hard to work with argument behind the scenes. So much to the respect for minorities from Hollywood. Yeah, again, remember what Kamran Pasha said about that. It's not genuine. Like, it's much virtue signaling, but if there's like someone with strong opinion, like Kamran Pasha, or who can actually speak out for themselves, that's somewhat less than exciting. And I see quite a few number 2s here. What were the options again, Tom? 2. I see where there's a 1.
Just 1 and 2.
Yeah, I know, but what did they mean?
1 meant if you still care, 2 meant if you don't give a crap anymore. A lot of 2s.
I see a lot of 2s. A big 2 in the case of Mr. Wolf and Randy Commando. Yeah, so it seems like quite a few people have been lost already. So yeah, I see many 2s. White Dragon certainly is very, very adamant about it, but there is some hope. Phoenix 23 even says 1 with Filoni and Favreau, and I do believe that this is a recurring thing. Yeah. Also, Cannibal Teaspoon says 1 for Mando, and I saw several other also point out Favreau and Filoni are the reasons for a continued.
Well, that's the kicker for me. Is like I was into Mando enough until the whole Gina Carano thing, and that just really, I mean. Turning me off is not even the term. You know what I mean? It just made me sick to my stomach. I canceled Disney Plus. Still have not gotten it back. In fact, I'm trying to stretch to think if I've even bought a Disney movie since then. If you don't count Fox movies, no, I haven't. So I've been pretty rigid on what I do. I haven't even bought any Star Wars anything.
Yeah,
in months.
But opinions may vary on the subject, and that's perfectly fine.
No, and that's
we want to be excited. And as Mexican Iron Man, our good friend, points out, for $15, 111. I hope I'm still excited for so many reasons. Do not lose heart, my brother Tom. I have faith for several reasons. Maybe
I would like
he has
to.
some insider from Doomcock. And again, I'm also not going to say, yeah, it's over, it's done. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we are. Favreau has a plan. And the moment that I lose faith, I will be the first to say so. But I think right now, Star Wars is probably in a better position than Marvel. It's my honest opinion.
And I know
Not
that's
saying it's a
heartbreaking
good
to a
thing.
lot of fans for me to say, but like, here's where I'm at. I don't hate Star Wars. I still love Star Wars, but at this point, there's less of it that I like than there is that I love. So you have to kind of look at it as I've reached that point where am I really going to talk about the 2-3 movies I love forever? Probably. But am I going to talk about the ones I hate? Not much longer. Only if I have to. Like, I mean, I remember talking to Jesse, who's still, I think, in the chat. Yeah, I remember talking to Jesse a while back about just, how sick I was of just talking about The Last Jedi. It'd been so long.
Yeah. But here's
Yeah.
the thing, it's dead. We can just move on from it. And hopefully, if Favreau gets his way, from what I've heard, it's never going to quite happen the way that we want, the way that it is, because they know the sequel trilogy is dead and buried. And also, Proto Man
Speaking of,
makes that point. Is the sequel trilogy a dead brand? Seems like it. And yeah, it is. It's completely dead. And the powers that be at Disney, the people who want a return on their investment, they know that the sequel trilogy was a failure in every single way that mattered. They know. And they want to make the Star Wars investment profitable. And so far, it hasn't been. That actually gives room for hope. And this is basically like in all the orders that we've seen, or articles we've seen, that Lucasfilm is something they want to maximize, which is code for they know they haven't done that so far. And Johnny Ohm says, one, so he's excited still, Jedi Fallen Order sequel and the Book of Boba Fett. And I think the Book of Boba Fett, I think that's going to be pretty cool.
I get more excited about the releases of the 4K projects. Like, so like I'm waiting for Empire.
Yeah, and that is fine. The beauty is that we can all have different opinions on the matter. But yeah, I absolutely see how those that grew up with those things and have been through that heartbreak. Again, it's easier for me because I have no affection for Star Wars beyond its state in popular culture, and I've made no secret about the fact. The Mandalorian just might be my favorite installment of it. So from my point of view, I just see everything else as everything else. And I'm excited for The Mandalorian and what's going to come of that. So I may be ironically in a position where I'm more optimistic because I'm not a fan.
Oh, I can't wait for the NDAs to dry up just so we can get through this. Like, that's the next round. And then after that, I think we're done. But for those who are curious on what John Boyega is up to professionally, Monkey Jeebus just sent me this. Thank you so much. Back in May 17th, it was announced just this last week that John Boyega is reuniting with Joe Cornish for Attack the Block 2. So there you go. He's working.
Yeah, and that's the movie that made him to begin with.
Yeah.
So yeah, good for him. Good for him. And with that, let's go back to some more super chats because we have a couple of more classic ones that I can no longer bring up in bring back on screen. So you're just going to have to listen. We have. I think we got the one from. We got that one. Hypergiver 2 says. Sorry I'm late, guys. Spending my Memorial Day remembering friends I lost in Iraq with a bottle of mead, indulging in our shared passion making dice. We got that one, but yes, that's very nice.
No need to be sorry.
Your friends. No need at all. Mags also says for $10, thank you so much. And she says, thank you to all those who served and sacrificed in order for us to be free. As I have military family members who are currently serving and have served, please hug your family members. Yes, indeed. Like our thought and massive respect to everyone who is serving to keep everyone back home safe. So yes, massive respect.
And on a different note, Grand Wazoo 42 pointed out that Heel versus Babyface, our good buddy Az, just dropped a video. Fantastic. Fast 9 box office falls 85% in China.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. So it would appear that John Cena was that his groveling was for nothing, and not only that, he may have killed the Suicide Squad in China. I would not be surprised if they now want to walk out on the deal with Warner Media on that. Just you wait and see. I predict it right now. The Suicide Squad is going to struggle in China if it's even released there, because he just may have made himself persona non grata. And as we heard from the users of approved Chinese social media, i.e. agents put out there by the CCP, his excuse wasn't enough.
Yeah, so after the show, go check out Az's video on that. I'm sure he had some funny notes to add. Boy, I'm not a fan of the Fast and Furious, but yikes.
I've never seen them. None of them.
No, but that's one of Universal's. One of them. That's one of Universal's golden gooses right there.
Yeah, I know, but I haven't seen them. Yeah, I know that Fast Cars translates.
I've never seen them.
And stuff, but,
I watched part of the first movie, and that's it. I bought my kid the movies because he likes them, but I've never watched them.
I saw the Norwegian remake. That's badass. That's
yeah, you awesome. Bring that up every time. So.
Yeah, but it's such a good movie. It's probably better than the American. Because again, I haven't seen the original version, but the remake, it's not really a remake. It has neglected his daughter, and then the two of them reconnect.
Be great if that were the case, Straight White Mage, but I'm willing to bet over at Lucasfilm it's just like it is over, at CBS with Star Trek. If they hear that you're a fan, or that, you remind them of things that came from the past all the time, and as soon as somebody says, "Oh, I have a great,"
then you've got their interest.
And I just say take one look at their High Republic writing team, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. Here's like the thing that it's not really that they have to hire Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, because there you have had multiple and have delivered really good things before. But when they come into that writing room, they only deliver crap and storytelling. That's what you have to change. And when you change that, then maybe the existing creatives, if they're just allowed to do their best, may be good.
Absolutely. And then Hypergiver 2 sends in another super chat. Thank you so much for your donation. Cannonball Run is the best Fast and Furious. I can't argue with that.
No argue at all. No argue at all. That is that's one.
Even
for
Cannonball Run 2 ain't that bad. So there you go.
I saw that one first. I have happy childhood memories.
That even in the US, it's under a different name. I'm trying to remember what the hell it was called. But it was the same basic concept. I think even John Candy was in it. Name for video. I think in some places it's still called Cannonball Run 3. And then whatever the name of the movie is, they put that as the subtitle or whatever for the Speed Zone. That's it. If you could tell from my response, it's not very good. It has no connection really to the other.
Sounds destructive, but I don't know how well you can aim that. So, yeah.
That series is dying for an old school Saturday morning cartoon where the cars can take them through time and all kinds of other crazy shit. Space, you name it. Like, there's...
well. And then we have Big Daddy MRI, who says for $25. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And he says, Star Wars is poisoned. It will take a complete revolution at Lucasfilm to catch the fans' attention. It will take a clean out of the KK Dominion and a new great story. Failing that, the franchise is dead. And yeah, it's very difficult to disagree with that. Beauteous, though, what we are hearing is that that's kind of exactly what is happening. Apart from the whole spiel about new great story, that depends. So if you count Favreau's already planned story as new, but that's the story at least. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Tom.
I was typing in the chat. Sorry.
Okay.
No, you're not wrong at all, Big Daddy MRI. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to fix it, though, at this point. That's the big question I think we talk about more than anything now is the franchise redeemable? And, you know, people ask Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. Sadly, I think Star Wars is one that's leaning more towards I don't know if it can be ever taken back to its former glory. Now, is it dead? Oh, hell no. It's too big to die, but it'll reach that point where it's like at Star Trek levels. You know, like Star Trek, at least, on the other hand, is a little bit more fixable. Like, you can ignore Discovery. You can, for the most part, ignore Picard. Unfortunately, with Star Wars, and we've said this time and time again, is since they have destroyed the original characters and they're no longer with us in some cases, like Carrie Fisher, there's no going back. There's no fixing this. There's no redoing anything. Sure, there may be ways around what happened in that trilogy, but they're never going to be able to go back and quote unquote fix it. It's just not going to happen. We're never going to get a special edition of these films that, you know, kind of retells the story or some, you know, really cool cut outside of fan cuts, which are really just kind of limited to what's available. So I think that the main big Star Wars franchise itself will never reach its former glory ever again.
Yeah, well, we shall see what happens with that. Straight White Mage appears to agree with you. As Yoda declared, and that is why you fail. Yeah. And then something else we can bring up on screen here. Let's see. And then we have some classic ones before we move on to the next topic, which is still on Star Wars. Stone Gasman says, Cannonball Run has lots of fans, but can't watch it due to woman who became paralyzed for life because reckless production had no respect for safety. I had no idea. That's horrible. Like there's no worse injuries than spinal cord injuries. That's absolutely dreadful. I'm so sorry to hear that. Is she still with us, that woman? Or, I mean, it's been quite a while since the Cannonball Run movies, but still, there's
probably been worse things that you never even know about in a lot of films that you love, to be honest. But
yeah,
I don't want to bring down the movie.
You only hear about, like, I mean, there's even been casualties in music videos. I mean, even Meatloaf had a music video that took a life due to poor stunt planning.
Well, and that's one of the things I already bring up, that like things like stunts and, you know, that kind of a thing are already a dangerous game. And when you're introducing a problem where you're hiring people based on the color of their skin or their nationality or what they have between their legs instead of what they do for their job or who's best for the job, we're going to start seeing more problems like that, unfortunately.
Natasha has an update on the stunt woman. She's gone. Heidi von Beltz, a stunt woman who was paralyzed when a stunt went horribly wrong on the set of the Cannonball Run.
Did not know that.
Well, did not know that, no. And that's very sorry to hear that. And thank you, Natasha, for being able to fact check that so incredibly fast. I'm impressed. So yeah, thank you so much.
Looks like she passed away in 2015, but yeah,
okay. So basically, she had long life afterwards. But yeah, and then moving on with the classic super chats. Pete Burrows said for £9.99. Thank you, mate. How can someone like JJ, an alleged A-list director, be so incompetent to not realize that a plan is critical for any movie, let alone a trilogy for the biggest sci-fi franchise in movie history? And Tom, on that note, let's segue straight into the next topic.
I mean, we kind of
just that.
We kind of brought it up already, but yeah, I think he knew. I think he clearly knew. I think he's more mad that his plan got tossed out. And at the same time, I brought this up before. JJ has nobody really to blame but himself.
Yeah, but can you bring up the story and we can take our audience?
Well, I suppose we can.
Let's see. Yeah.
But yeah, as we said already earlier, like Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, this is a comment that was dropped earlier, and it's a longer comment, but the gist of it is basically that J.J. Abrams said in not so many words that one of the lessons learned is that when undertaking a project like Star Wars, maybe it would have been more advisable to come up with a plan for the entirety of the trilogy, as opposed to just doing one movie and enjoying the challenges of that, because that was the question. Tom, do you have the exact quote for us?
Well, it starts off here where he says, there are projects that I've worked on where we had some ideas that we hadn't worked through them enough, you think? Sometimes we
comes to mind.
Yeah, and a lot of them come to mind. Sometimes we had some ideas, then we weren't allowed to do them the way we wanted to. I've had that's probably Star Trek. I've had all sorts of situations where you plan things in a certain way, and you suddenly find yourself doing something that's 180 degrees different. And then sometimes it works really well, and you feel like, wow, that really came together. And other times you think, oh my God, I can't believe this is where we are. And sometimes when it's not working out, it's because it's what you planned. And other times when it's not working out, it's because you didn't have a plan. You just never really know, but having a plan, I have learned in some cases the hard way, is the most critical thing, because otherwise you don't know what you're setting up. You don't know what to emphasize, because if you don't know the inevitable of the story, you're just as good as your last sequence or your effect or joke or whatever. But you want to be leading to something inevitable. You know, it almost sounds like JJ's been listening to us.
Yeah, and you know what he's doing here? Because here's like the thing, he's not the one that deviated from the plan. We know, we've been saying this for a long time, there was a plan. He's throwing Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy under the bus here, especially Absolutely. Rian Johnson. This is continuing the Twitter fight that the rise of Skywalker was in movie form.
No, you're 100% right.
No, because you see, like this thing here, he's not saying that I did anything wrong or something, because he didn't. He's making general points here, and the general point, what he says here beneath the lines, is Rian Johnson fucked this up good. We all know that you need a plan, and that butthole threw the plan out the window. That's what he's saying here.
Yeah, and where I said that JJ has himself to blame is he had the chance to do all 3 films.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't want to, because he's an opener. He's not a closer. He's someone that will relaunch something and get people excited.
He's a starting
then
pitcher,
he's gonna exactly, and then he's like an entrepreneur who starts a new company, but the person to start it isn't necessarily the right person to take it through the next level and the growth period. And that's where you have J.J. Abrams. He's the one you go to do a relaunch, but he's not one to see things through, especially not to conclude it, which he botched royally.
I think the baseball analogy is better, because I don't know how well you know baseball, but yeah, he's the starting pitcher. Then you have your relief, and then you have your closer. And that's the better analogy here, because yeah, JJ came in, he got this game going. Rian Johnson was the relief pitcher, and he came in and he lost the lead. I mean, JJ came in, and yeah, it wasn't a beautiful lead, but they had a great lead going into the latter part of the game.
The Force Awakens did everything it had to do, and it did it perfectly well. I know many people hate that movie, and I'm not begrudging you that. I'm just saying that from a box office standpoint, and also in terms of doing for the franchise what Disney wanted, JJ knocked it out of the park. As we have heard from Kamran Pasha before, the very first Star Wars Disney movie was estimated to earn $2 billion, and it did. It was right on track. Unless they had botched it completely, it was going to do that anyway. And you can even see from the beginning of The Last Jedi, the way that it it opened, that there was much excitement going into it. But that is when the ball was dropped. I think that The Force Awakens, that's a movie, well, parts of it are just unforgivable, but that is a movie.
No, but you can still build upon it.
Exactly, that's something to build upon. The Force Awakens is something of a blank slate. It's something that you could retroactively have made work, or it's something that you retroactively could botch. Alas, Rian Johnson wanted to subvert expectations, and in so doing, he retroactively botched The Force Awakens. So it's funny, the Star Wars sequel trilogy is a trilogy where each new movie is trying to react to and take things away from the movie that came before. Each new movie is a course correction. The Force Awakens was a course correction from the last installment of the prequel trilogy. The Last Jedi was a course correction from the Force Awakens, a voluntary one because Rian Johnson was just an idiot and Kathleen Kennedy enabled him. And then again, the Rise of Skywalker, or Rise of Palpatine, as I choose to call it, was a necessary course correction because Kennedy and Johnson botched it. They dropped the ball worse than any ball has ever been dropped before.
Absolutely. And again, like, it's the same drum we've been beating for the last 2-3 years here. And it's finally, it's refreshing to finally hear somebody else say it. But unfortunately, I think you're more right. Going back to the initial point, is he's not saying this so much to tell us that we're right, or to tell the fans, you were right.
No, he's telling the industry. He's telling
exactly.
This is throwing Rian Johnson under the bus in the eyes of the industry. That's what he's doing here.
Exactly. And that's where I feel like there's some shifts going on. And I know we've been reporting on the rumors, and I know Doomcock's reported on some rumors too. And, I'm not trying to say that this confirms or denies anything, but what it does do is start to set up a narrative. And that's what Andre and Cameron and we have been saying for a while here, is something is going to happen here that there's going to be an extreme shift in Star Wars. Now, I'm not going to say that, Jon Favreau is going to take over and Filoni's going to be doing it. No, I'm not saying that, but you are going to see a shift. And one thing I do keep seeing is people are protecting the shit out of Kathleen Kennedy. Right. That's one thing I keep seeing. So all this business of Kathleen Kennedy being fired, I'm not so sure about that. Will she be quietly retired? That's a different story. But that's where I think they're setting her up for. And that's
those two are maybe the same thing.
They can be the same thing, but the difference here is one will be given a bunch of pomp and circumstance. The other just happens, or they do it so publicly that they're doing it to shame the individual. I don't think the latter two are going to happen so much as it's just going to be like, it's going to pretend, they're going to pretend and act like it's a natural course of events.
Oh yeah, that's how it happens at that level.
Exactly.
That's how it happened. That's her being fired. That is her being fired.
That's
what it looks like.
Well, at the same time, though, you can't really. I know as much as we stand here and say this shit, and we all know that she snafu'd Star Wars. You have a situation though where this woman is a retirement age. No matter what you say, that she could have fucked up Star Wars 10 times worse than she has, and her legacy is still pretty intact.
I don't know about that. I mean, that legacy is for the future. I think that her legacy.
What future does she have left other than to retire on her bagillions of dollars?
What I mean is that her legacy has not yet been written, and I think her legacy forever will be tainted by the fact that when she was given the keys to a kingdom, she botched it.
You could be right.
I think that is how she will be remembered. She will no longer be remembered as the greatest producer of all time. She would have been remembered as such if she had retired prior to taking on Lucasfilm.
I'm not so sure
how badly she's botched Lucasfilm, that's an open secret within the industry. Everyone knows.
But that's what I'm saying, Andre. If it was any other time, you're right. 100%, and I'd even put fucking money on it. But what we have here is a different set of circumstances. We're in a time now where we're not allowed for something like that to happen. You know what I mean? There is no way.
No, they can't say
there is no way. And we can think it and talk it for the end of time, but she's not going to go down. She's going to they might even give her a big 2-hour fucking ceremony on Disney Plus or ABC for all we fucking know, Andre. Don't count that shit out yet. Celebrating the career of Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, I'm not.
The most powerful woman in Hollywood history. She's a pioneer. That's the thing you got to remember. None of this Star Wars stuff is going to be a blip until years later. The other stuff is what they're going to concentrate on. The fact that she is one of the first and foremost women in the industry who've done, that's the other thing. She's done shit that no other women has. And it's not because of the work that she's done. It's because of who she knew. We know that, but the industry is not going to let that be known. They're going to tout her as the greatest ever.
Yeah, that's what's going to be written for now. And I think that behind closed doors, it's going to be a very different story. But we shall see.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, I can see this playing out in my head already.
Yeah. We shall see what happens with it. But let's move on with some
exactly like you should get a Lifetime Achievement Award and all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you get that, that means you're done.
She'll get all that business. She's already gotten a few awards.
She'll get all of those respects. She has gotten a few already, and she'll get many more.
But don't think I'm trying to stick up for her. Don't think I'm trying to, kiss her ass in any way. No, I know what she's done. I know what her legacy really truly is. But we live in a world right now. If this was 10 years ago, or maybe even 5-10 years from now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She would be the laughing stock of Hollywood. She would be gladly retiring just knowing that she got away with what she did at this time. Because let's face it, another problem here that's not being, the big elephant in the room that we point out all the time, that isn't being said here by JJ, that isn't being said in all these other John Boyega interviews and stuff like that, is that Kathleen Kennedy was the one that fucked this up. We point this out 100 million times. It was her job. The buck stops with her. She allowed Rian Johnson to do this. And that's kind of what JJ's saying to a point, but he's not saying. He will never dare say. Because as I pointed out the other day, Kathleen Kennedy, she's done. She has no future in Hollywood. JJ does. So her exact thinking on the Star Wars trilogy is going to be her undoing. Or Star Wars series, I mean, not trilogy. But her idea that, we need to move past the past and go forward and only look forward is what's going to be the irony of when, she gets kind of pushed to the side of this whole thing is, we're moving forward, Kathleen Kennedy. The past is the past, and you're the past. That's what she's learning slowly, I think.
Yeah.
And sadly to say, kids, J.J. Abrams is the fucking future. I hate to say it. But the people in Hollywood see him as some golden calf. It is sad but true because he knows exactly. He's a great politician. I think you said that first, Andre. He's a great politician.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And listen to him. This interview is exactly what we want to hear. The interview right after Rise of Skywalker was the type of shit the fans exactly what they wanted to hear. The fans are right. If I made a bad movie, they're right. He knew he made a bad fucking movie. He did it on purpose. That's what's pissing me off here more than anything is that J.J. Abrams is going to come out of this smelling like fucking roses, kids. And that's what I've been saying since day fucking one about him. And that's why he got away with Star Trek and he'll keep getting away with shit. Because he keeps coming away smelling like roses. Because nothing he's done has been the actual problem. As much as you can hate The Force Awakens all you want, like Andre said a little bit ago, that wasn't the problem.
No, that movie that that movie did its job, and so did JJ.
Yeah. Well,
and there's nothing else. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's how it is. That's how it is.
Absolutely.
So he's as Thanos 2024 says, JJ Teflon. There it went.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I've gotten there of all the questions I've been asked by you viewers and other people and that I've talked to on streams. That is the number one question I'm asked the most is how do J.J. Abrams and Kurtzman still get jobs in Hollywood? That's your answer. They're the greatest politicians. They know exactly where to be and they know where not to be. Kurtzman, on the other hand, is not as smart. We've noticed that. He's starting to fade. He's he's got bullet wounds already. So speaking of Entertainment Weekly, as we brought up earlier with the Boyega story, they let him have it. They riddled his ass with bullets.
Oh yeah. And that's not the
I
first
wish I could have framed that.
That's not the first time because he's not quite the politician that JJ is because he's taken chances. He has gotten himself too involved with things that were guaranteed to be failures. I mean, the Clarice series. that that he chose to put his name to. It was a guaranteed failure, and Kurtzman didn't recognize it. He thought it was going to be awesome because he was doing it, so he obviously must believe his own hype. There's no reason to, because everyone else says that there's to everyone else it was obvious that you can't do a Hannibal Lecter spin-off series that can't have or reference Hannibal Lecter only focused on Clarice Starling. You do that, what you're left with is a standard police procedural. And is that something that Kurtzman is able to handle? No, evidently it isn't. So it failed.
And actually, Ryan Monument, JJ actually doesn't handle most of the writing anymore. Actually, when he was a writer back in the day, he was better. Honestly, he probably should have never.
Well, that depends.
I'm sure if he works with the right people.
I mean, there's Superman Flyby. Let's not forget.
I'm not gonna. Well, here's the thing: the few things that he's written and the shows that he's like his concepts, certain movies that he's written, they're fine. It's once he started getting to be the director and working, in that arena. But again, I'm not gonna say he's a great writer, but I'm gonna say he probably should have stayed in the writing department more so, because he has more strengths there. His mystery boxes work better there because
actually, and Meredith G makes a great point. If JJ had any integrity and smarts, he would have made use of Lucas' outline a condition of consenting to direct. He had the leverage. Here's the thing, though, Meredith. You actually answered your own question, or statement, rather. Yes, he had the leverage. If he had told Iger that I believe this absolutely is the way to go, then they probably would have done that way. But you know what would have happened if he had done that? Star Wars would have been in a better position. Disney would have been in a better position. J.J. Abrams would have been in a pretty decent position. However, the real hero would have been George Lucas, because then they would have sold the sequel trilogy as George Lucas sequel trilogy. Lucas might have gotten more credit than J.J. Abrams did. I mean, just look back at The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. Lucas didn't direct those, but he's the one who gets most of the credit. Now, J.J. Abrams, he's too much of a politician to let that happen. He was smart enough to know that this movie is going to be a smash hit no matter what happens. So it's actually more in his interest to take all of that credit for himself.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he did. So when Iger was looking at the outlines and thinking, I don't know, these things, they're a little bit too progressive, a little bit far out there. They're not quite like episode 4, which is what I want. Then J.J. Abrams goes to him and says, you know what? You are so right. You are brilliant, Mr. Iger, for recognizing that. We have to go back to episode 4. Now, I have these ideas. You leave it to me, and I shall give you something like episode 4 that the fans will love. Iger says, okay. Kennedy, just let him do it, and Kennedy gives his notes to have Ray be the bestest ever. But beyond that, JJ gets to do pretty much what he wants, so he gets credit for a movie that would have been a smash hit regardless, and George Lucas gets none of it because he's publicly more or less distanced himself from it. So all the credit for that movie, the biggest movie in the world at the time, went to Wonder Boy J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
That is what makes him a politician. That is why he's Teflon. It's for doing things like that. Because he doesn't put story first, he doesn't put legacy first, he puts himself and his legacy first.
Yeah. And Stone Gassman says, just got Regarding Henry Blu-ray from Via Vision Import. Yeah, I got that one too. I can't remember who put it out, but yeah, I think that's the name of it. With a new audio commentary, Abrams has a cameo as a grocery delivery boy. Did you look at the writing credits on that? And that's what I was saying. And just to clarify, because there's some people who are misinterpreting, I'm not sticking up for Jay. I'm just saying he's above his status. He should have stayed a writer and no further. But maybe a showrunner at best. You know, he's clearly not anything better than that. That's my point. I just don't think he deserves to be where he's at. He doesn't have the talent for that.
You know, I see him, because many people see him as the next Steven Spielberg. At least some people used to see him as that. And I disagree completely. I see him more as a Michael Bay type. And Michael Bay, he can do good when he's working with a strong producer that can direct him. Like, Bay's best movies were the ones where he answered to producer Bruckheimer. That's when Bay did his work. His best work. Yeah. And again, Bruckheimer isn't a great storyteller himself, but that's kind of what J.J. Abrams needs. Like, he has a visual flair. That flair includes lens flares, literally. But have him work subservient to
he's a concept guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's a concept guy. He's a visualist first and foremost. If you have him work with a producer who's more of a storyteller, J.J. Abrams could do wonders. But he's the ultimate power, and that's not great.
That's the problem.
He doesn't have that story thing. Yeah. And then he has other incompetent storytellers working with him, and yeah, there you go. Speaking
of the golden calf, Grand Wazoo 42 points out that isn't worshiping of the golden calf a sin against God. Yeah, well, yeah, that's
not in Hollywood.
That's the point of the analogy, is that they're worshiping the wrong God here. But no, JJ is a golden calf in Hollywood. They look at him as, and I can't believe the quote that Mikey Sutton said, but I know because I've heard it other places where he flat out said that the reason Hamada brought JJ in was to do for DC what he had done for Star Trek.
Yeah, because you have some people in the industry that really buys into the hype. That's how good a politician J.J. Abrams is. Not saying that's a good thing, but that's how it is. J.J. Abrams is a politician, and he's been able to delude loads of people in power, Walter Hamada of DC Films fame being one of them. And that is why we are getting J.J. Abrams' Superman. That he won't be writing or directing. He'll just claim credit for how progressive it is. And when it bombs, just like Star Trek Beyond, he can wash his hands and say, well, I didn't write it and I didn't direct it. See? That's how a politician works. He'll take credit for everything good, and he can distance himself for everything bad. Yep. Exact same thing with Star Wars. He can claim credit for The Force Awakens, the biggest movie in the world at the time of release, and then he can excuse the rise of Palpatine with, but I was just cleaning up the mess left over by Rian Johnson.
He was in a perfect position. They came crawling for help to him.
Exactly.
That's the only reason he did it. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. Obviously.
If The Last Jedi had been a hit, first of all, they wouldn't have went to him. But if it had been a hit, he would have said no. Guaranteed.
Oh, no way. And then he'd never do that, because again, he's a politician and he'd rather follow something that would be easier to be in a place where he can either claim credit or escape blame.
Exactly.
And the risk and the profit loss ratio of the two kind of like has to balance out.
Exactly. No, he should be the guy sitting there coming up with TV show ideas. He should not be fucking making movies. That's my feeling on the matter. But hey, that's the world we live in.
I'd be fine with him making movies as long as he had a strong producer directing him, which he doesn't. So, yeah.
Right. Or just lower level shit. He shouldn't be on all this other stuff. But Clive Calculator, interesting little icon there, sends in, that's 4 pounds, right?
That's 4 pounds, yes.
Guy, but there's people like Lorena that work with us and Culture Casino and stuff who
does an overt plan. I do not think that she would deliberately go on could profit by shorting, because there's loads of recognizing how badly this thing here is botched, and then making some on those companies declining in value.
No,
I also think it's more that I don't think that she's deliberately tanking something so that a few parties can short and benefit from it.
Yeah,
because
kind of malice in trying to destroy Star Wars. Now, I think Kathleen Kennedy's quote of saying, you know, we're not here to have to retain the old. You know, you got to go with the old cigarette agency. You want to hook them while they're young, but you got to remember, you got to keep the old ones happy. Otherwise, you lose your core fan base. And that's some new stuff to it. Look at what Cobra Kai did. Why is it so fucking hard?
Responsibility to those, whereas any responsibility she would have to any hedge fund, I don't believe so.
Yeah, and she's somebody who's swimming in so much money that it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Plus, they're bad from it also. So it's not as simple as that. But I see what you're saying. It's a very interesting point. And also on the note of Kathleen Kennedy, Steven Sana says for $10, that will be how they get rid of her. Then everyone will forget, and Favreau and Filoni will get back to business. Yeah, that's the best we can hope for. It really is. That's the best we can hope for. There's not going to be a better option out there.
Or blow me down. Okay, I just had to do that.
Yeah, okay. Now that you've done that, let's when you got that out of your system, for $10 Canadian, here's an idea. Finn gets chosen for direction. The nurse sees Finn on the tag and mistakenly serves him for dinner. Then we have, let's see, but that we haven't gotten to already. Mecha J says for $5, at least Boyega still has some upcoming project he's in since he spoke out. Can't say the same for Kryborg Fisher after his outburst. Let's good luck with his upcoming career. And Alex Asara says for $1.99, $5.10, of course, if they course correct. And Maryland's Id says for $5, hail Andre and Tom. Thanks for kicking butt and reminding us that we're not alone in our disdain for soulless corporate media. No, of course not. We're in this together, all of us. If you have any kind of interest in subculture, genre culture, which are all extensions of culture in general, this is the place to be. Then we have Straight White Mage, who voted 1, meaning he still has hope. Lucasfilm needs to hire qualified creators willing to write across the top of their resumes, I love Star Wars. Yeah, we touched on that briefly, and here's to hoping that that's going to make the difference when the new management is in place. Then we have, let's see, we got that one. Grand Wazoo 42 said for €5, hope and excitement are two different things in my opinion. I have hope for Star Wars with Dave and John, but I am not excited from what we see at all recently.
Thank you, Grand Wazoo 42. That's how I feel. That's
a very good distinction right there.
Yeah, that's a very good way of explaining how I feel about it. I hope that there's a future. But I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Yeah. And Bertrand,
like my Popeye so much.
And Bertrand Kurt Russell says they'll give KK the first annual Montgomery Burns Award for outstanding achievement in the field of excellence. If no one else comes up with a Montgomery Burns Award, maybe we should make one. And we certainly have like a good candidate in Kathleen Kennedy already.
Smithers, get me the award. Oh. You don't want? Do you guys have The Simpsons over there? Is it pretty big?
Oh yeah, sure. I haven't seen it in like 10 seasons.
Oh, but yeah, you ain't missing nothing, man. It's been dead.
No, I figured. Yeah. But yeah, no, we still have The Simpsons. It's still going like.
Basically, the first 20 seasons are good, and then there's like sporadic episodes after that.
Yeah, I checked out after season 15. I think.
Once in a while, you get a gem, but it just kind of turned into Family Guy.
Yeah. Koraon, Witch in Residence, says JJ had turned failing upward into an art form. Well, yeah, that's what we said, like a form of policies, but or politics. But we have someone else joining us, which is always a pleasure. Tom, you click the button.
Yes. Welcome and happy Memorial Day, Lorena. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you. Happy Memorial Day. And just to remind folks, Memorial Day is here in the U.S. about celebrating the lives of those men and women in our armed services who have given their lives in service to the United States. So definitely keep that in mind as you remember that today.
Yes, we started out today by going through that point, going through it for those of us not in America, and we even had quite a few super chats and channel members sharing their feelings and reminders of that. And again, I shall repeat for new viewers who may have missed it, as someone that is not of the US, I will also say to everyone who has served, who are still living, who are still serving abroad, or who has in the past, to everyone, thank you for your service. Many people like to point out like that the Scandinavian model is so amazing. America should be more like Scandinavia. But you want to know a little dirty secret? That's because we spend so little on armed forces, because we kind of rely on the American army to help us out for our security as well. This is the same of all NATO countries. America is the big one that keeps everyone safe. So the Memorial Day shouldn't just be an American thing. Every NATO member should celebrate it too, in honor of those doing the service that keeps us all safe in the Western world.
Very well said.
Yeah. So I was going to ask the ladies if we're even going to do a toxic femininity tonight, but I think you guys have made that choice already. You guys are hard at work already this morning, getting stuff together for tonight. So I think that answers that question.
Yeah. Just when we thought we had a main topic, we may have to look at that a little bit closer.
Well, that's the way it works around here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll definitely see what pops up there. But thank you for stopping in this morning. We're just talking about the J.J. Abrams. We should have had a plan bit, but
yeah, which in reality is again, it's him. It's not him admitting any mistakes on his own part as much as it is him casting more shade at Ryan Johnson, because that's what that quote really is about. But again, it's a slow news day, so we're just going through some of the highlights from last week. And since we've already covered the Star Wars news from last week, Lorena, what's on your radar? What news of last week, or even current ones, do you find particularly interesting, exciting, or aggravating? Take your pick.
Well, the one story that I saw that we're actually going to talk about tonight on Toxic Femme, with Jeff Bezos buying MGM, him talking about the quote-unquote reimagining of certain MGM properties. So that really makes me nervous.
And I have the perfect thumbnail idea for it already.
Thank you. I'm just going down all the MGM properties. I'm like Stargate, Rocky, Thelma and Louise.
How is that a franchise? I know they talked about a sequel, but how is that a franchise?
I can see how they can bring that into the current day. But speaking of current day and bringing in, we have someone else to bring into current day, certainly to this stream. Greetings, Paulie.
Hey, Paulie.
It's
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Lorena.
Hello. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Good. Nice, busy Monday morning.
This is a family show.
I'm being polite.
Yeah. She just said how's it doing? How's it doing? Yes, doing well. What's up?
How y'all doing?
Yeah, I can join in with the flirtation as well.
I'm so confused now that I know just what happened.
Well, how's your Memorial Day being, Polly? I know you had a long weekend of bachelorhood.
Yeah. Well, and hey everyone in the chat. Memorial Day 2021. We did a stream early this morning. A Memorial 2021 stream honoring the 8 heroes from Hero Street, USA. A block and a half in the city outside of Chicago, Illinois, where six of their boys gave the ultimate sacrifice World War II. 2 of them in Korea, and since then there's been over 100 that have served from that block and a half. So it was a really nice stream talking about that, about Hero Street USA, and then everyone in the stream was talking about their some of their relatives that have given the ultimate sacrifice. And what I didn't plan was that I said I'd go out, no tips this morning, guys, but then they started tipping. So we're going to give it to their monument committee. So $200.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
So, awesome. That was a really nice stream. It's up on the channel, and I'm doing the double duty of cleaning because Romy's coming back home today. So, so nice and busy. Yeah.
I'll bet. I know you miss her.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You can't see me winking like, you miss her, right?
Miss her a lot. Yes. It'll be nice when I get to see her and give her a hug and a kiss.
That'll be awesome. That'll be very, very cool.
So yeah, that's the Monday.
So Polly, how you been otherwise? What you been up to?
What do you mean, man? We've hung out every day.
That's the part where you can plug your, the Scarface video and the other conversations we've had this week. That's where you do that, man.
Oh, all right, brother. All right. Well,
I'm trying to help you out here.
We did have fun.
Just go subscribe.
Listen, I will vamp. We did have fun, and what's on the page also is the best martial artist list from IMDb, and we tore it to shreds.
Really?
Yeah, me and Tom, Script Doctor, Clobbering Times, we had a blast.
Oh man, I gotta see that.
Yeah, we had a blast.
Well, it was a really stupid list, but yeah.
It was it's a list where both had, and this is a martial arts list, martial art actors.
Uh-huh.
It had Danny Trejo, Mickey Rourke.
What it did was mix actors who actually in martial arts films with actors who actually know martial arts.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Or maybe who have done a scene of martial arts in a movie, but it was just it was so weird. Oh, Lorenzo Lamas was in it. He was 17. We're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, Jackie Chan was way down the list. I'm like, how? And speaking of Jackie Chan, you know what I watched for the first time ever last night? The original First Drunken Master.
Ooh.
I loved the shit out of it.
Oh, it's classic right there.
The original, not part 2, the one that most people have seen from 94, but the original 78 movie. It's fucking awesome. It's hilarious on top of it. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to see that one yet, check that out. Speaking of martial arts films.
Okay. I haven't done no martial arts films, but I am going to be watching Scarface this weekend while I'm packing and cleaning. I got sidetracked because I was watching a telenovela called The Last Bastion. I was watching that for historical reasons.
Right, sure.
Family research stuff, of course.
I gave Lorena a couple of things to watch, like recommendations, and one of them is a novella called Who Killed Sarah? Oh my God.
The thing with the telenovelas is it's not 5 episodes. It's not 10. I mean, I'm watching one more thing.
No, it's like
40
100 or something, isn't it?
Exactly. One that I'm watching now has 40 episodes, and I'm like on episode number 26, and it's really starting to get good. So I have to figure out what happens. But I had to tap out so I could watch Scarface like I promised.
Yeah, and that Scarface Mr. H reviews that is also on the page. Oh, been nice and busy. We're gonna do some fun stuff on the Espanol site.
Yeah,
we're doing we're gonna review the new Eugenio Derbez reality show with his family. Derbez has a reality show. It's his second season. He's huge in Latin America. It's like the Latin American Jim Carrey, for lack of better comparison. But and then we're also gonna review Invincible, because all three of us now have seen it. So that'll be on Midnight Edge Espanol.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very, very cool.
Was that good enough, Tom?
Yeah, I think that I certainly think.
I was
think
just
that
trying to
sounds
give you a
very,
moment to plug your
elaborate.
channel and things coming up, because we gave Lorena a few minutes to talk about.
Oh,
Toxic
I
Venom.
did right before you came in. Diego Flores. Yes, I am talking about El Último Bastión, about the independence of Peru. Yes, because in 1827, Florida got ceded from Spain to the United States. So I like the historical telenovelas to find out other things that were going on outside of that time, because literally Spain just said, here you go, and like left everyone in limbo. Like some of my ancestors who were Floridanos, when Spain left, they sold their land to the state of Florida, well, to the United States. Their land, they were like, forget it, you're going to have to prove your own claim. So a lot of my ancestors had to do a lot of back and forth in Washington to prove that they owned the land that they had. But there was so much going on in Latin America. But yeah, I love that. That's actually really good. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that telenovela.
Funny, that year of 1826, 1827, we've done streams on it, me and Lorena, how one action just really started an avalanche of all these territories and countries just liberating themselves from Spain.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's interesting.
Yeah. History rules, that is for certain.
Speaking of history, before you guys came in, we mentioned the show Clarice when we brought up Kurtzman, and Bryant Barth has a question here, Andre, that I think you could answer pretty quickly, probably.
Okay, yeah, go
for
it. What's the
wasn't the show made so Brian Fuller couldn't make the Hannibal sequel?
It wasn't made explicitly so that he could make the Hannibal sequel. Here's like the thing, that the Hannibal Lecter or extended Hannibal Lecter rights, they were already split. That was already a thing. So Kurtzman or no Kurtzman, CBS had the rights to Clarice Starling and to Buffalo Bill already. They already had those. Whereas the other party, in this case, it would be, let's see, who's Universal, NBC, whoever it is, basically the other party, they have the rights to everything else. So that right split, that already existed. And before there was an Alex Kurtzman, then NBC, who I believe were the ones making the Hannibal series, they made overtures to CBS about, can we please acquire the Clarice Starling rights so that we actually can do the Silence of the Lambs things. And CBS, they were like, no, those are your rights. We have ours. We're going to keep it that way. So they didn't want to. So they already had those. But then Alex Kurtzman being the one to actually do something about the Clarice Starling rights. What motivated that? That I don't know. If that was an additional little FU from Kurtzman to Brian Fuller. It kind of looks that way, because otherwise, why the hell would anyone ever want to do a Clarice Starling series?
Yeah, so, without Hannibal.
Yeah,
makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems pointless to me.
It does, and based on the reviews, it was, because no one liked it.
I mean, it's like I got a crack my back and my neck just to work out the political agendas out there.
Speaking of MGM, didn't they have the rights to Silence of the Lambs? That's kind of the whole deal. Not CBS,
no, that's exactly the thing. It's MGM, and because they are the ones that own the rights to all characters that originated in the novel The Silence of the Lambs. So if it originated there, then they have it, which basically means that they have Clarice Starling, they have Buffalo Bill. I think they have Krendler, but that's it. They don't have anything else.
Anybody who came in Red Dragon, they had to negotiate.
Everyone of any importance came in Red Dragon.
And at that time, I think, as you pointed out in the video, Andre, when they made Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter wasn't Hannibal Lecter.
No, he wasn't.
Manhunter had come out, but it didn't do that well. So nobody really, it was off of everybody's radar. So when they went to De Laurentiis to get the rights for Hannibal, because De Laurentiis owned the rights to Red Dragon, he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't think they paid anything for it, did they?
No, he was like, yeah, fine. I'm not going to stand in the way of you making your movie. So fine. You want Chilton and you want Hannibal Lecter and you want Bonnie. Go for it. Yeah, I'll give you the license for this one movie for free, just because I'm not going to do anything else with them. So they made it a huge hit with characters that they technically didn't own.
And that is why
sequels again, that was back under De Laurentiis and Universal.
And co-production with MGM on Hannibal, so they could include that. That's a whole other fucking mess.
They worked together there.
And then Red Dragon, they worked together again, but then from that on, it's been, pretty... But see, that's the thing. Yeah, if De Laurentiis would have just been like, nope, or wanted a bunch of money for those characters, then all they would have had to do for Silence of the Lambs is just change the characters slightly.
Make them 25% different.
25% different. There you go. So hopefully that answers your question, Bryant. Otherwise, there is some videos I know that Andre has done in the past on the subject. So
they're on the channel.
You might do well to check them out. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, let's continue to what we were talking about as you came in, Lorena, because you will be talking about the MGM situation and Amazon having expressed an interest in rebooting some brands in their own image. What do you think that might entail? Give us a little preview of what to expect from tonight's Toxic Femininity.
Well, we have that one article, which escapes me to where I got it from exactly, but actually from Variety, where Jeff Bezos basically says, Amazon will reimagine studio franchises for the 21st century. So he kind of talks around it, but from what we've seen, how different things are being rebooted, it makes you very... As a movie aficionado and a franchise aficionado, it does make me very nervous. So Bezos talks about, with the franchises like James Bond. Okay, we all know I don't like what's being done with James Bond right now, but what are they going to do when Amazon gets their hands on it? Are they truly going to go, completely fall down the woke hole with it and destroy what we know as James Bond? And it's like it's not sure to know. Things like RoboCop. RoboCop was a positive police model. What are they going to do with that? TV shows, because also the MGM TV shows, like they have like Handmaid's Tale, that's like so off the reservation. I don't even watch that one. But Vikings, what are they going to do with that?
Hopefully not. Don't scare me now. But that has the same producers. That has the same showrunner for the Revival series, which I know is going to take their place in the era of Leif Eriksson, which is a few centuries later. That's when he first went to Vinland, that you will later come to know as America, because the Vikings actually hit Newfoundland. Which is pretty cool. Centuries before Columbus. That's kind of like what's going to be covered there. They better not screw that up.
I'm so nervous. I'm hoping that they don't. Vikings, I love this. Let's put it this way. I did not get into Game of Thrones because Vikings so sucked me in with the storytelling in that series. I absolutely love it. Love it. Ragnar Lothbrok is the GOAT. He really is. He is an amazing, amazing character. And you listen to what Bezos is saying. He's kind of pretty much hyping up the idea of, MGM has these beloved, properties, but we're going to reimagine them. He doesn't say how, but it's kind of like, it's kind of hyping up the fact that Amazon is looking forward to doing that. But considering what's been done to a lot of our beloved franchises over the years, I get nervous when anybody says the word reimagine. It used to be that if something was being reimagined, they were putting their own spin on it, but still paying homage and respect to the previous lore.
Well, what's the last thing that we can say that was reimagined and innovative and like, wow? I mean,
yeah.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's a good example. I was going to go back further, but you got me on that one. Yep.
I can't think of anything more recent than that. I'm sure there must be something. Like there must be something. But here's like the thing. Then what they were doing with Battlestar Galactica, they were doing a modern day twist on it, and they were doing it for. But they weren't doing it for modern audiences per se. They were doing it with like modern day storytelling techniques and technology, but the same basic story. What has me worried right now is when we hear the storytelling that we are going to modernize it for modern day audiences, which is code speak for modern day sensibilities. That is what has me worried.
Some people are saying Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is
okay, fine. I'll there you go. Everything should be Cobra Kai. That's but that's not really a reimagination.
It's
that's
not.
A continuation.
It's a continuation, and that's how you want to do it right. Honoring the old legends, balancing the new ones.
I mean, it's reimagined a little bit in the sense of, now it's a TV series and not movies, and it's more from, it begins from Johnny's point of view, or at least gives the two kind of more equal
but it's still a continuation.
Canon.
It's not like it's not like now we're reinventing Karate Kid for a new generation. That would have been the 2010 remake.
The reimagined would have been Johnny's movie. That would have been cool. Like Johnny's side and how Daniel was the bully, because that was so theorized for like so many years, That's
kind of what we got though in Cobra Kai. That's the awesome part of it. But again, that wasn't any kind of reimagining. That was just seeing what happened before through new lenses.
Yeah, it's pretty much 20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know here's a continuation of the story, but yeah, I agree with you, Andre, about Battlestar Galactica, because I pushed back on watching Battlestar Galactica really hard, because the original is just, I loved it for years. So with the quote unquote reimagining, I really wasn't too keen on it until I met Katie Sackhoff at a convention. And
she was pretty awesome.
She was really awesome. And I'm just like, a female Starbuck? Really? I'm sorry. I see Starbuck as, a guy smoking a cigar, walking around. That's the Starbuck that I know, not, a Starbuck that's a woman with an anxiety problem. I wasn't sure I wanted to buy that. But then I sat down and I watched it, and I was hooked just with how not twisted in a bad way, twisted in that they kind of turn things around. And what I originally saw in Battlestar Galactica, the originals, those parts were there, but it was a different telling of it. And, it didn't feel like it was, crapping on the original lore, at all. And it was great. It was great to watch. I enjoyed it immensely.
It was the perfect reimagination, I would say.
And Dominic, the writer, I hate to break it to you, we already have a female black 007. That's Lashana Lynch in the new movie. So it doesn't even need
Mhm.
Amazon for that.
Yeah.
And honestly, speaking of the Bond thing, not to switch gears here, but that was one thing I know that I was kind of concerned with too, because before this, I figured this last one was going to flop so hardcore and get such a bad reception that they would recalibrate Bond. If Amazon's behind it now, they're going to just do the woke bullshit. And same thing with RoboCop is fucked. They're all fucked, probably.
This depends entirely on who's going to do it, because it's easy
You're
to
right,
say a
but
company,
still.
but behind the company are individuals. And the thing is, are they going to let Jennifer Salk do it, or will they lock her in a closet or something for the duration of these reimaginations? Because when we talk about like how woke Amazon has become and stuff, in reality it's one person. It's Jennifer Salk, because she came in after a couple, she replaced two guys who were Me Too'd out of Amazon. And when she came in, her mandate was to do a complete overhaul, both in their policies as well as in their creative output. And I have told this story many, many times before, so many long-time viewers will know, but I'll relay it again here in case Lorena and Polly haven't heard it like me. This is something that could be interesting for a Toxic Family later tonight. Amazon, originally, they greenlit 2 seasons of Conan the Barbarian from showrunner Ryan Condal. And his take was going to be absolutely incredible. It was going to be the single most true to the original stories Conan that we have ever seen. What I have heard from people that have read those script and knows the plan, have seen the concept work, it was going to be the next Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones was good. That is what it was lined up to be. And the potential for that is there. Like, really, what is Conan? He's a barbarian from the far north who travels the world just for adventure. And in so doing, he gets himself involved as a mercenary in all of these local strifes and struggles in different kingdoms all across the world. So you have all kind of representation, everything. It's already there, because he's just one character who travels the world. He goes around Europe, he goes to Africa, he goes to Asia, and he gets involved in every conflict there is there, looking for trouble as a mercenary. You could have like a whole season of him acting as a mercenary, discovering all kind of intricacies, and then adapting a story by the end of it. That was kind of like the take. It was going to be incredible. But then Jennifer Salk came in, and she took a look at all the projects that were there. She looked at the Conan scripts, and she was horrified by the toxic masculinity on display. Because Conan was Conan. He was the single badass there ever was.
Yeah.
And she would have changed it, but there's one problem there.
Yeah, she would have changed it, but the problem is that can't do that, because in the case of Conan, there is one guy who is the Guardian. That's Fredrik Malmberg, who we have an interview with in this channel. That's the reason why Marvel's Conan comics to this day kick ass and rule, when everything else from Marvel kind of doesn't, because he's still quality control. They can't do what they want. And since they couldn't completely neuter the series into something that Jennifer Salk would be happy with, she passed on it. And what she greenlit instead was the Wheel of Time, because that was something that was more female-centric, and that could be made even more female-centric in the adaptation. So that's like the big cause for all of the wokeness that is going on with Amazon right now. And of course, if she is the one that's going to approve a reimagining of RoboCop or something like that, it's going to be an incredibly current take on RoboCop.
Oh, this gives me a headache.
Tell me about it.
But I don't know that she still has that power there.
Well, let me tell you something. Here's the thing, because when RoboCop comes up, Andre knows my ears perk up, because RoboCop is in my top 10, right? Like it's
I freaking love
all
RoboCop.
time. RoboCop is just RoboCop. Like, and I would crush, like, because if you go back and look, I mean, I put most of them in playlists now in the, you know, because we've cleaned up Mead, but like, there was a few things when I was following stories, like RoboCop was one of them I stayed right the fuck on top of. And I was so crushed when that Neil Blomkamp movie fell apart. And now I'm looking down a tunnel of they are going to destroy this even worse than that remake did, because as against that remake as I was at the time, after watching it, I'm like, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. All they did was kind of at least take some of the ideas in RoboCop and flip them on their head a little bit. And they didn't try to do the original film, so I give them credit for that. By the end of the movie, I was like, it was unnecessary, but my biggest gripe was the RoboCop design. Really. By the end of it, I'm like, it was an interesting idea on what they had, but it didn't really sully the original, and it just is there. You know, the original is still there, and it's still way above and beyond, and it still has potential. When Blomkamp was going to do a proper RoboCop 2, I was like, yay! And you know, there was talks of Peter Weller coming back, and if worse comes to worse, the man can at least do the voice. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to see his face, or, you know, just do the, you know, see him in his face when he's in makeup and whatnot, but. I mean, that's what I was all for. Yes, just go back to RoboCop. Just bring him back. Bring him into the modern times. Yeah, he was already set, you know.
I just have to say, especially after Mortal Kombat 11. Now, granted, Mortal Kombat 11 is not on the Sega Mega Drive, so I have not played Mortal Kombat myself. But I do have YouTube, so I have seen the clips of Peter Weller reprising his RoboCop in Mortal Kombat 11, and it is glorious. Bring Peter Weller back.
Absolutely.
Bring Peter Weller back and give him the Cobra Kai treatment. And speaking of bringing back, welcome back to Midnight's Edge, Kamran Pasha.
Hey, Kamran.
He was in the chat, and everybody's like, sending the link. So.
Well, I saw the topic and I had to jump on it because, you know, when I'm seeing Mr. Boyega's comments, I was like, I had to jump on. Then I see some of my favorite people on here. So happy, everyone. Paulie, it's great to see you. Lorena, always lovely. Tom, Andre, thank you. I feel like I come home when I come back to this channel. So,
well, you are home. We're so glad to have you here, and our door is always open to you. So if we see you in the chat, you can rest assured the link will be forthcoming really quickly afterwards.
Well, I don't like to steal anyone's fire. So I know you guys had a great conversation, but if I can join in as a friend and participant.
Oh, please do. I mean, we were figuring on a lean show today, being Memorial Day, but hey, we've got over 1,000 people watching. That's probably 900 more than I expected to show up.
Yeah, and as Joey says, the prophet has arrived. Gang's all here. Although I prefer the term seer.
Seer, it's less controversial. We've had a lot of drama with that word on my Twitter, so we're not going to go with that drama.
Speaking of that, though, I don't know if you caught the earlier part of the show, Cameron, but Andre and I are really getting the inkling that a lot of this current stuff coming out seems to be keying in on putting a lot of blame on Rian Johnson for what went wrong.
Exactly, because the point that I made, I don't know if you've caught what we said earlier, but what I said, because again, this all happened last week, but what I said earlier, I gave massive credit to you, of course, that all of this is in line with Seer Kamran Pasha's predictions, where you basically said earlier that what we are going to see is that people are going to fortify to solidify the legacy of Kathleen Kennedy, whereas everyone who served her are getting more and more thrown under the bus. And basically what John Boyega said was that, oh yeah, I'd come back from Kathleen Kennedy. I'd come back for J.J. Abrams. And some other people, it's very funny that you didn't mention the name of Rian Johnson, someone that I think is increasingly going to get thrown under the bus. And also the statements that was made by J.J. Abrams in relation to what they had learned about planning ahead. To me, I did not read his exact comment in any way, shape, or form as a mea culpa. That was him throwing Ryan Johnson under the bus.
That's exactly what it was. You know, it's interesting. I actually had this conversation with a friend who's in the chat right now, Stephanie Janicek, who's got a great channel, and I had this conversation with her a couple of days ago when all of this started. When the John Boyega article came out, I immediately said to her that this is a PR plan, for exactly the reasons that you're saying, Andre, that, you know, he's very specific. He'll come back for Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. I think the latter part is true. I think he'd come back for J.J. Abrams. I think they had a perfectly fine relationship, although I do think J.J. began the process of shortchanging his character. But fine, I think that they were fine with each other. You know, but it's very specific that he didn't mention Mr. Johnson, and it's also very specific that he mentioned Kathleen Kennedy. And we know, at least what I've heard, and I think it was reported in some of the fan news, was that when Mr. Boyega started making those comments in the last year about how racist the process was of his character development, which we were saying in the fandom from the beginning, right? I was saying that watching this as a person of color, which is the phrase we're using nowadays, as the person of color, I was offended by watching what was happening to his character, and it was insulting. And he said it, and I remember hearing at the time that Kathleen Kennedy had called him, and who knows how that conversation went. But I mean, I'm sure she called him because
I have an idea. I have an idea of how it went.
Please.
Because remember, we were told from Gina Carano that they offered her like this flagellating apology thing where she had to like call up 100 representatives of the LGBTQ community and make a pitiful excuse. And we saw an example of this in John Cena when he insulted the biggest fish in the pond, namely China. This excuse had to be made public. It still wasn't good enough. I would imagine that Kathleen Kennedy, that was her moment for that she had to give him a call and she had to grovel and apologize.
Oh, yeah.
And then afterwards, now look here, you little bastard. This is how this is going to go. I would imagine
you were going to say
something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, having John Boyega put that out there, there's no way that Kathleen Kennedy could have let that sit out there and her not address that, because she basically had gotten called, or the inference in being called, one of the worst things any woke white person in Hollywood can be called, and that is racist. So she had to kowtow and make that right with Boyega. So of course, in order to reward her for that, you know, he would mention, yeah, I'd work with Kathleen Kennedy. I'd work, you know, with J.J. Abrams. Of course, I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, J.J. Abrams, I can kind of see, but you're going to work with the same chick who allowed all that stuff to happen to your character. I said, politically, I can understand why you mentioned that, because she did, you know, she did capitulate and call you and try to, you know, smooth things over and all that. I understand that. But at the same time, as somebody else looking in, it's like you're working with a person you want to work with, but it's the same crappy management.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure that someone gave him a call and said, make sure you mention her. Right. I don't think it actually came from himself feeling like he was, you know, satisfied by the apology, because he's been around this town. The honest comments that he made, which reflected what many of us already believed about how racist his character portrayal was and how demeaning it was, when he finally came out and said that, you know, I think he knows what's up. And as a man who would say that, he knows that the person making the call is doing a disingenuous covering their face. You know, I'm sure it was, I'm so sorry you felt that way. Had I been more involved, had I been more aware, I prevented it. And that's why Mr. Johnson gets thrown under the bus, right? And I mean, a white male did this to you. I didn't do it to you, right? And so I'm sure there was very little responsibility taken, because I've worked with the woke white woman. They don't take responsibility. They apologize that you felt that way.
Yeah,
they don't accept responsibility for creating the situation.
It's like it's everybody else's fault, and I was just doing what I was told, and all
I was distracted. It was so hard running a store and all that. Right?
It's the non-apology apology to make,
and I'm sure that rankled him too. You know, because when I very rarely gotten those non-apology apologies. Right, they're usually followed by revenge. They're usually followed by, okay, the person is forced to apologize to me. Now that actually is when I get scared, because I know they're now plotting revenge because they feel humiliated. right? That's when I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. Oh, you just apologized to me? I gotta get my resume going because I know they're already like, we gotta get rid of this guy, right? Because he made us lose face, right? And so I'm sure he's like, well, I'm done with her, right? I don't think he walked away from that call thinking we're great now. He's like, oh crap, I got an open enemy now, right? And so the fact that he would use her name, this is, in my opinion, coming from the higher up saying we need you to make this comment because it's time, as I said to Stephanie Janicek, this is part of the PR that we have to let her go off into the sunset with glory and honor and respect so that she doesn't sue us all.
Right. And then also another thing to remember is John Boyega has that Netflix development money. So he's already got, you know.
He doesn't need this. And she's
exactly
done. He knows she's kind of done. I mean, she might get her credit on Indiana Jones, but this is retirement for her. I mean, this town knows what's up. She's done. I mean, Miss Kennedy is done after this, right? I mean, this is it. And so I don't think he's worried that she's going to block his career.
No, he already has like his revival and returning to where he started in more attack from the block. So he's fine with that. But I do think that it's obviously a political move because in doing that, he's going to please all of Kathleen Kennedy's allies and loyalists that still remain. And there's obviously more of those, and they're probably aligned with J.J. Abrams, who remains a power player. Not so much Rian Johnson, though.
So let me give a perspective on that, and forgive me. I tend to go off on a thing. Anyone, please just interrupt.
Yeah, before you start, I'm going to take off. I got to go.
What?
No
problem. I come you leave.
I got 2 hours. I got 2 hours to finish cleaning the house. I have
he's got a lot to do.
She just texted me. Schedule. She's on the road, so if she comes and I'm online,
I'll explain for you, Paul.
Yeah, no, you don't mess with the Brazilian woman.
No, she knows. He knows.
Oh, he knows already. Okay,
better.
No, you gotta go.
All right, give my love
guys,
phone, please.
Bye,
have a great rest of your stream. Bye.
Excellent. Take care.
I feel like I've done this a couple of times. I mean, Paulie's wonderful. I've been to his home. You know, I've met Romy, his partner, and I feel like every time I come in, the poor guy has to leave, and I feel bad about that.
Well, he had an awesome weekend being a bachelor, so now he just has to like remove all the evidence. So, yeah.
No, he is so deeply in love with Romy. I don't think any woman comes in front of his eyes. It's just, I think it's an amazing relationship. God bless them both.
Yeah. I do think the leftovers from all the guys coming over and having parties and watching movies.
Okay, well, that's a guy thing. Yeah. You know, you can be deeply madly in love with your soulmate and you still have the dudes and make a mess. That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what guys do when they get the weekend on their own. Watch TV, eat pizza, have the guys over to do the same. Yeah. Of course, that requires some cleaning up.
So to respond to the earlier comment that Andre you made, my instinct is I don't even personally think he is trying to keep up with Kathleen Kennedy loyalists because they're on the way out. You know, I think they've been you know, they've received the lightsaber to the arm. They and soon it's gonna be like you know, the Holy Grail, which is gonna keep cutting pieces off until there's nothing left, right? But I think they're out. God bless them. So I really do believe that this comment, specifically using her name, isn't about anything except he was told by Disney PR, look, we really need you to do this. We need her to ease her out. We need to make her feel good. And this is all part of the new narrative that is beginning, which is passively aggressively beginning to make it about Rian Johnson, right? And I agree with you, the J.J. Abrams comment that we didn't have a plan. That is a comment from a guy who had a plan.
Yeah,
he had a trilogy written out.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows just going to treatment, but yeah,
he knows we would know that. He knows that by putting that out, he gets to fake look like he's putting himself on the cross, right? He's sacrificing himself. That's what while at the same time, he knows that immediately the fandom will know, well, you had treatment, right? You had a plan, and that plan was thrown out, right, by Mr. Johnson. And so he knows the fandom is going to fill in the blanks and do the takedown that he is setting up.
Exactly, that's my take as well. That this isn't a random thing that he's dropping this. Like he made sure that he was asked that question, and the answer was prepped.
Yeah, and where's this coming from? as our friend Abu Nas has said, this guy just vanished right after the movie. He's like, did one interview and he said, "I'm see you all later, suckers. If you don't like it, you're right." And he's, "I'll see you all later, suckers." And he was gone. So where's he coming from? Like years later with this thing. This is a PR thing. Yeah, we need you to say this.
Yeah, this is exactly as you predicted. That's exactly what it is.
And I also predicted this, which I'm so happy about. I predicted that theaters would come back. And because right now, the official narrative of Hollywood, theaters are done. It's all streaming. Theaters are part of the human condition. They take us back to when our ancestors would sit around a fire and the shaman would tell stories. They're very primordial. We sit in the dark with strangers and watch bright light in front of us and see magic. They're not going to go away. And I'm so delighted that A Quiet Place Part 2, which I absolutely love. I watched this weekend in Santa Monica in the theater. It is such a wonderful movie. And I'm so delighted that it's what brought us back, because it's actually about a family trying to survive an apocalypse. And we all kind of understand that now.
Yeah, that's a very timely movie. More timely than the first one.
Yep. Yeah. So it's
absolutely is.
What do we got here? We got more stuff here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just popping things.
The title's Augur. And okay, YouTube's Witch in here. Okay. I, as YouTube's Witch in Residence, hereby bestow Kamran Pasha the title is Augur, as it does not have any troublesome association or reflects his visionary status.
There you go.
I'll take it. I used to play.
That's a good idea.
I'll take an Augur. Yeah, that's good. It's very sort of English witch. I like it.
Nice.
And our fellow Wrench here in the chat is
Mr. Pickle Trunks.
Says he's working and listening. Sad to hear you're working on Memorial Day, but glad you're here listening at least. Says, I'm here for Cameron's rants. Shame I missed Polly. Yeah, Polly has work to do before his wife gets home. The lady of the house gets home. And hail Lorena and hail to the chat, of course.
Hello, hail.
And before that, we had Mexican Iron Man.
You pronounce it, you can do it.
And he says, Assalamu alaikum, my brother Kamran. Hail the great Polly. Hola, Rena. And great discussion, my brothers Andre and Tom. Question, Kamran. Is there future hope for Star Wars? What say you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before on this channel, is that I believe there's a great deal of hope. We're going through the transitional period right now, and we're beginning to see the hope in the form of the PR that we're talking about on this video, which is Mr. Boyega, Mr. Abrams are out there, setting up the next stage of this journey, which is Ms. Kennedy's going to move on. People are going to be able to disassociate from the Rian Johnson vision because he screwed up their plan. And now that's sort of coming out of the mouths of people in power. So I think they're setting up their future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that at this moment in time, the future is actually better for Star Wars because that's in the stage or phase of being corrected, whereas Marvel still has to go through it. Again, in line with what you said before, I think that as of right now, future is brighter for Star Wars. That's just my thought on that. And also, Marigo Ann wonders, are woke activists hired by Disney to cut costs? Well, if they were, that was a really bad short-term investment.
Cut costs, cut revenue. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It really doesn't. And we have a couple of other ones here for you, Kamran, that I can't bring.
Well, let me address that one first. Woke activists were hired just because the industry thought that's what the young people wanted, and the industry made two mistakes. It is that the young people wanted that, and number two, it is that the young people matter right now. Those are the two economic mistakes, right? Because I was raised 20 years ago when I arrived in this town, I was told it was all about the youthful demographics because they had all the money. 20 years later, the youth doesn't have the money. These, everyone is bridled with $400,000 in student debt. They're living at home with their parents. It's become a normal part of the culture, which wasn't 20 years ago. People don't have jobs. Even besides the events of last year, they're economically depressed. So the youth don't have the money. So this was just bad decision making from people that had been raised and trained from my time when it was a 20 to 30-year-olds that you were marketing to because they were the ones spending the money. They're not the ones spending the money. The older people, like the ones on this screen here, except for Lorena, who's much younger than us.
Bless you.
The older men here and the lovely young women are the ones with the money right now.
That's true, because I know when Kathleen Kennedy, she was basically saying, we're not marketing to, the 50-year-old white men who were in Star Wars. So regardless of race, the 50-year-olds who were Star Wars fans were the ones dropping all kinds of money at the parks for memorabilia, bringing their kids, bringing their grandkids. They were the ones spending that kind of money.
Exactly. That's like the thing. They were like, no, we don't want you 50-year-olds. You that have spent your entire life buying Star Wars toys and merchandise, you're out.
Exactly.
In favor of a new generation that are all broke.
Exactly.
And it came from it just came from that brainwashing all of us got from the previous generation when we arrived here, which is that those were the people that were spending money, which is what was true for the last 40, 50 years. It wasn't true in this broke generation.
Yeah, but basically, it wasn't ready for. Yeah, the people that were spending money, like it was true 20 years ago, and those people are now those 40, 50-year-olds. They are the money that started spending money 20, 30 years ago. They're the ones spending money still.
Exactly. And to kind of add to that, the whole Galactic Star Cruiser, aka the Star Wars Bottle Hotel that they have at Disney World, it is not cheap to stay there. Yeah. Reports are it's about, I think, $3,000 to $4,000 just for 3 nights. It's like a cruise ship.
I'll go to the Dominican Republic for $3,000 to $4,000.
That's the demographic that they're catering to, and I don't know how many millennials have that much money just sitting around.
I will also say, sorry, carry on, Lorena.
I was just going to say, millennials aren't spending, that type of money. But as we all know, Disney is chasing that, 1% demographic, the wine moms and the people who can afford to spend that huge amount of money. But this is all based, from what I understand, on the sequel trilogy. And you're not going to find a whole lot of old school Star Wars fans who have that kind of money to spend, but are not spending it to go there.
Find even fewer young people that even want to go to the sequel trilogy period, because it has no fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's if this hotel is going to continue, because I haven't even thought about. I remember that hotel. I haven't thought about.
Oh, they're staffing for it. They're staffing the hotel from the people who lead the VIP tours and all that through Disneyland and Disney World. Those are the cast members that they're using to staff the Galactic Star Cruiser. It's still going ahead. There's no concrete open date yet. I believe they said early 2022, but they're still moving ahead with it. I don't see it.
Have to revamp it because this sequel, internally, Chapek is done with this fake sequel trilogy. So I'm sure they're going to revamp it into the real Star Wars, because they already that May 4th poster that we saw that was on Star Wars that didn't have a single sequel, fake sequel trilogy character, not one, right? Not even BB-8 was in it, right? And so that's a Chapek's decision. So I'm sure they're going to revamp that hotel.
They're gonna have to, or else it's just gonna sit there collecting dust.
Yeah, I agree with that. How much did you say it was price per night for a family?
Last time I heard it was somewhere priced, I want to say around $4,000 to $5,000. I think last time I spoke to Culture. Yeah, it is not cheap, because I thought it was going to be like their regular themed hotels that Disney has, maybe like 100, 150. I know I'm guessing really low a night. And, the family could drop in, check it out, and check out. No, it's literally booked like a 3-day, 2-night cruise per cabin. So you're talking, $4,000 to $5,000 for 3 nights, when some families of 4, they're barely making it to stay there on Disney property for a week for that much money.
My sister, God bless her, has 3 kids, right? It's hard for her to get them all to go to a theater. It's very expensive, right? For her to organize that kind of trip, right? It's just, I don't think it's in the mind of a lot of families. And this is the exact opposite of Walt Disney's vision, which was to make all of this accessible to the public.
But that's exactly it.
Yeah, I have to say that, no, by all means. I also think that you're entirely right when you say that you'd rather go to, where was it? You said Cancun? I also think that, fine, Dominican Republic. But anyway, I also think that most families, they that have the kind of cash disposable, they probably also go to both the Dominican Republic and Cancun before they go spend that money in a Star Cruiser hotel.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact in Europe that you'll go many places before you go to the States, and even then you'll have gone many places before you go to that particular hotel. I mean, you're looking at people that have done a lot of traveling and have a lot of money to burn as the clientele for that. I don't know how many people are going to save up their money to go to that particular hotel.
No, they're not. I say normal. I should say your normal Disney family, we'll say middle class. They're saving for like over a year and a half to maybe take this once in a lifetime type of trip.
Yeah.
And you're talking at least, I'm saying, for a family of 4 with souvenirs and food and all that stuff, you're talking about $5,000. And we're not staying at like the most luxurious property on Disney property to do that. But now Disney is pricing them completely out. You know, it used to be that your middle class family in America, you know, you save for a little while, you could afford to go and stay on Disney property. And that's not the demographic they're going for any longer, which is a shame.
Evidently so, yeah. Like they seem to be pricing themselves out of the market, or they're looking for a completely different type of customer, which would fit Kathleen Kennedy's MO very, very well. Like just go out with the old and in with the new. But here's like the question: will they be able to find someone and those people that have that kind of money to burn? How interested are they in Star Wars and going to a Star Wars themed hotel?
I mean,
evidently there must be some.
They didn't spend the money on the. They didn't spend the money on the movies, and they didn't spend the money on the toys. Why would they spend the money on this extravagant? No. Event? I mean, they.
Well, and that boils down to getting the young hooked, and that's what we were saying way before. It was not only they're losing the classic fans, but they haven't been able to hook any new fans, or at least none of any significant amount, because, like you said, the toys aren't selling. I don't know too many kids who are into Star Wars now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the tragedy of it. But you still see stuff on social media where people posting their kids, going up to an R2-D2, and hugging it, right? And so this generation still loves the originals to the extent that they were familiar with them.
Well, and that's the other sad story I keep hearing is those who are getting into it, they don't like the new ones anyway. So.
No, and even when you go to Disney World, all the Star Wars merchandise will say like 95% of it, it's either original trilogy or it's The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and so that's the basis of everything that's happened in the past year. I mean, it's now especially that things are beginning to return step by step to normal, even in California, which has resisted it. The excuse of the pandemic and all that is no longer there. Now people are seeing what people are actually buying stuff on. This going back to A Quiet Place. It shattered all of the theaters are dead nonsense, right? It just shattered it in 1 second, because even with people in California who are still terrified to go out, it is making, it made something like 60-70 million this weekend, 60 million, I think. That's
Quiet Place 2.
Yeah, Quiet Place 2.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what the first movie made when things were normal. And so if things were normal today, it would be making 100 million. And everyone at Paramount knows it. And so that's going to accelerate the pressures to return to normal within California. These studio heads, breathing down the neck of our evil governor. But, going back to Star Wars, that you can no longer use the excuse of the pandemic to say that's why things aren't working. And Chapek, being the bean counter that he is, knows that. And so all this is set in motion to end this ridiculous era that we've all endured.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. While we do that, we have a couple of more super chats to go through, some of which were addressed to Kamran. Big Daddy MRI says, "Great to see you, Kamran. What's new?"
What's new is I'm here and I'm missing Paulie, who I just absolutely love, and I hope he has a great day today. So yeah, that's what's new. Is I just love to be here on Memorial Day. So it's good.
And Wintrell also says for $10, thank you so much, come run equals the man. So, yeah.
I get more. The reason I come back here, I keep getting more love from this community than I've ever gotten from this industry. The industry's kicking my ass.
We love you, Cameron.
Yeah, yeah.
I come back. You got to go where you're loved, right? And so,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. We love you. We love you here. So that's awesome. So very, very cool. And Gran Wasu 42 says the seer has spoken again. And I also have to point out Planet Musk Vlog says I'm backing up the stream. You don't have to. Well, that basically he's taking a copy of the stream for future reference, probably to have prediction or something. But you don't have to. If you head on over to Midnight's Edge live archives, there you're going to find every single one of the streams pre-backed up for you already. Not just Midnight's Edge in the morning, but also all past episodes of Toxic Femininity, as well as all our other live specials, including the James Bond screenings or watch parties, and much, much more. We'll be having many more of those to come. Not just Bond, but other movies as well, with a varied panel. Like, we certainly hope Lorena is going to join us for some in the future. And if there's a movie Kamran wants to see with us, you'd be always welcome as well.
I'm a huge Bond fan. Let me know the next time you're doing a Bond viewing.
Oh, for sure, because we do them with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yeah, which would be great.
Oh, I'd love to drop in on that. Bond, that's a franchise I need to go back and watch.
Diamonds Are Forever, I think, is our next one.
Which one?
The next one is Diamond is Forever is the next one, because we have gotten caught up with everyone up until on Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was the last one we did last Thursday. So next one will be Diamonds Are Forever. We'll let you both know before we do the
I'm gonna ask a boneheaded question, but Dame Shirley Bassey, did she sing the theme song for Diamonds Are Forever?
Yes, that's Shirley Bassey.
Okay, all right.
that was actually one of the better opening theme songs as well. The movie you can say what you want about, but like that theme, I'm not going to sing it. But Diamonds Are Forever is one of the single best Bond songs there ever was. Right next to Spy Me at Noon.
Well, have you all read the books? Have you all read the original book by Ian Fleming?
I have not.
They hold up. They're better than the movies in many ways. They're really good. Bond is a very dark character in the books, right? In some way, Connery is the closest that came to sort of that dark side, but he's a complex, screwed up guy in the books, right? And there's a lot of psychological depth to them, and they're really heart-racingly adventurous. They're really good books.
Yeah, I haven't read the books myself. Of course, I've only heard good things. But Robert Meyer Burnett, of course, he has read them, which is why he's always there as our expert guide.
So you can compare how they adapted. Yeah. Because a lot, especially in the Roger Moore era, it became they became sort of fun chintzy movies, but they're all based on these books, which weren't fun chintzy books, right? I mean, these are cold-blooded, spy thrillers from the Cold War.
Yeah. And Ian Fleming, of course, he knew what he was talking about.
Although someone pointed out, Ian Fleming was a spy. He worked for the British intelligence during World War II, but he was actually more like M. He was more like the handler, right? And in some ways, someone pointed out that he's actually living vicariously through Bond. Like, he had to live vicariously through the agents he was sending into into Nazi Germany or whatever. And the agents who got to seduce the girls and then kill the Nazi bad guys or fight the Soviets, whatever. He actually wrote up reports about what his guys did. That's why he knew, but he sort of wanted to live their lives, and Bond became that.
Ian Fleming, didn't he have an estate in Jamaica?
Yeah, Goldeneye.
Okay, all right. Because I wanted to actually maybe one day go and see that, but I remember hearing, I'm like, oh, that's where he wrote from.
He wrote several of the books here.
Yeah,
I don't know if he wrote all of them. I know he wrote quite a few of them.
Nice.
Yeah, so no, that's very cool. You'll be most welcome to join us for that and any other watch parties. So we'll let you know which ones we have planned.
Thank you.
And also, if any of you have any requests for future one, we'll be very happy to accommodate you. Although I have some plans already, which include some very cool space travel themed movies, like the science behind it, like First Man, and a couple of Russian companion movies.
I would love to do a First Man screening with you, because you and I love that movie, and we both agree one of the best movies ever moved.
That's on my list too.
Yeah, you know what I want? I want to do like a trilogy of that, like the Space Race trilogy, where we begin with the Russian movie that deals with the first man in space, Gagarin, I believe it's called. A Russian movie. It's a really cool movie, and then of course you have the movie, I forgot, Spacewalker is the English name for it, which is about the I forget his name right now, but the Leonov, Alexei Leonov, I believe it was, who was the first man to actually walk into space. Again, the Russian, and he almost died several times over. First, when he couldn't get back into the craft, and secondly, when he landed in the middle of the Ural Mountains and had to fight against bears and wolves for survival for like the next 3 weeks before they could come and pick him up again. So that's a movie I want to see.
It's interesting. They briefly show him in First Man, because there's that moment where the Americans thought the plan was that they were going to do the first extra vehicle thing, outside the capsules, and the Russians, of course, beat them to it. And there's that moment when all the astronauts are watching on television the breaking news that the Russians are doing it, and their sense of frustration. Yet again, they were beaten by the Russians.
Yeah, and then of course to cap it off, then First Man, which is then like because again, when you see those two movies first, and what I like about those two Russian movies is that they're very honest in terms of like where the Russians were in terms of technology, security. I mean, if you think like it was like Cowboy and Wild West, the Americans, how they were doing it. Let's just put it that way. We know that Gagarin was the first man to come back from space and tell about it. We actually don't know that he was first, period.
Yeah, there's actually I watched this. I love all those Discovery Plus. The only streaming service besides Netflix I have is Discovery Plus, and I'm always on their various, paranormal and UFO shows. But there was a great documentary I saw on there which actually showed evidence. It's an amazing thing where they showed evidence in the early 60s. American ham radio operators caught a broadcast that was in Russian that appears to be a Russian cosmonaut screaming for help in space, and his capsule can't return to Earth. This is before Gagarin.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, we know that Gagarin was the first to return. We don't know that he was the first to go up there.
And what's amazing, it was a woman. They apparently sent a female cosmonaut into space, and she couldn't return. And then they just covered it up.
Yeah, there's some really fascinating stories there. And also, like, there's a really, really cool scene where you have also in this movie, I'm getting ahead of myself, we'll get back to it, but that's like one of my favorite scenes in the Gagarin movie, where he's like in his capsule about to be launched, and he tells like the launch operator, like, I'm a little bit nervous. Am I going to be fine? And he says that, you know what? Don't worry about the thing, because if something goes wrong, anything at all, you are dead, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh my God!
That's all Soviet style. I love it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about things you can't control. So you just be here and you relax and just know well that either you're gonna make it or you don't. There's nothing you can do. Feel better now? Good. Let's go. That was the Russian way.
And the one thing that I'm always impressed with was the incredible camaraderie between American astronauts and Russian cosmonauts. They didn't have a Cold War between them. They respected each other. I was reading about how when Armstrong actually landed on the moon, that the cosmonauts in Moscow got together and had a celebratory party and were drinking champagne to him. I mean, that was a major PR loss for the Russians, but the cosmonauts were just happy that a fellow human being had pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not to change subject though. We're going to be talking about a different movie this Thursday, right, Andre? Or at least hopefully you watch it by Thursday because it's planned.
Yeah, hopefully that is that absolutely is the plan. So we just have to confirm guests and.
The guest is confirmed.
Right, nice. Yeah. Very nice. Very
I
nice.
thought I told you that, but if I didn't, yes. So if you want, I can announce it.
Yes, feel free. Announce it. Announce
Well,
away.
believe it or not, kids, Andre. Well, with a caveat, he has never seen Highlander. He has, but it was so long ago.
Oh, wow!
And he don't remember it. And I'm like, how the hell do you not love Highlander, Andre? It's like everything we love.
I'm shocked he hasn't seen Highlander.
It's like it's like nerd porn for us over here at Midnight's Edge. It's like everything that we're into at Midnight's Edge. So I'm like, how the so, and of course, you know, I facetiously asked Critical, I'm like, hey, are you a Highlander fan? And of course his answer to me is like, I'm Scottish. What the hell do you think? And he did a video recently about Highlander, and I guess I was part of the impetus for that. Is that the word I'm looking for? The muse?
Yeah. Well, I think we both were a little bit with the video that we put out. I just think that was a little bit of an inspiration.
So. Yeah, I love that video. So if you haven't had a chance, check that out after we're done here. But yeah, Thursday we're going to talk Highlander with Critical Drinker and maybe some other guests, because Andre has never technically seen it. Technically, I say with an asterisk. So there you go.
Well, question I have for you is, I understand now you've launched the Midnight's Edge Spanish. So tell us more about that plans. That's what I wanted to ask Paulie about when he was here. What more are the plans for that service?
Well, we've got a lot to come up with to talk about there. We are going to be doing some more things in conjunction with the main channel, like we have on June 10th. A very big guests. 2 guests coming for sure, and then maybe some more. We have a Stand and Deliver reunion with Edward James Olmos and Lou Diamond Phillips.
Wow. I mean, that's stuff that the mainstream media should be covering. That's big.
Exactly. Like, yeah, and Paulie is just kicking ass on Midnight's Edge Espanol with their what is it, bi-weekly shows now, Andre?
Yeah, it's bi-weekly. It's because it's live. So if you're not watching it, you already should. Every Tuesday and Thursday at this time, there's a live show over at Midnight's Edge Espanol, and there's going to be more and more content from the main Midnight's Edge channel, like our mini documentaries, retrospectives. All of that is also going to be translated and dubbed into Spanish and released on Midnight's Edge Espanol. All new upcoming videos plus catalog videos will also be dropped there. So it's going to be translation of the biggest, most important Midnight's Edge videos, plus then the unique take from the staffers led by Paulie over at Midnight's Edge Espanol. Someone else who will be important there, of course, is our good friend Mike, the Mexican Iron Man, who we also have right here.
Hey, I heard Midnight's Edge in Espanol, so since I exec produce it with Paulie, I thought I'd come on and help answer any questions you might have, sir.
Hello.
There's the voice of sour cream. If I
have such respect for Mexican Iron Man. He's an absolute gentleman. He always treats me with such great respect when I come on. So I just want to make sure. I actually texted Paulie about this because a couple of times I've come on and Paulie's left. I hope it's not like personal. I hope it's just like coincidence.
No.
I love Paulie, and I want to share time with him on the screen.
Oh, no, we already knew that he only could stay for so long.
Yeah.
So we
I just talked to him.
Came.
Cameron, I just talked to him on the phone. We're on cell phone, and he told me that he was frustrated that he couldn't stay on. But yeah, that's happened, I think, now 3 times, I think, in a row.
Yeah, and I was like, when it's happened a few times, I'm like, I love Paulie. I was like, he goes when I come. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what it is he gets up really early and stuff, and like I think usually you come on about an hour into the show, and he's already been going about an hour and change. But yeah, he's definitely looking forward to it. He's also planning a barbecue for you, R&B, and some other LA folks. He's planning it for, so you'll get an invite, but we're going to get through the June 10th show. But yeah, Midnight's Edge Espanol on the membership stream this past Saturday, I asked the guys about it, how they came up with the vision. And yeah, so Tuesday, so on Midnight's Edge, we go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? And then we're using the same time slot, and we go Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's actually not just in Spanish. So I hope everybody in the channel, we got 1,000 people here, but we actually do it bilingual. So it's in English and in Spanish, and everything we cover in Spanish, we actually translate immediately into English too. Okay. So like for example, if one of the guys does something, then we immediately go in English, and I'm producing in the backstage and stuff like that. And so the vision between what Andre and Tom came up with is to take that same level production content and that intellectual approach that certainly that you and everybody else sees here on the channel, except that we're doing it to a whole other audience. And so that's the first thing. Also trying to broaden the scope to a lot of Latin properties, and then going about the talking about the event coming up. Yeah, we've got Edward James almost confirmed. We've got Lou Diamond Phillips confirmed, and we actually have 4 other members of the cast confirmed so far, and more confirming every other day, every day since over the last week. And so we're gonna the last show, Andre, how long did the last reunion show fundraiser go? The one we did for Blood In and Blood Out. That one 5 hours.
That one was it was around 4 hours, I think. And what was cool with that comment, on speaking of who also made a cameo appearance, Dame Helen Mirren.
What?
Yes.
When?
Wow.
Yes. What are you talking about?
She was.
Yeah.
What?
Well, we had Taylor Hackford on.
Yeah,
And-
director Taylor Hackford, who just so happens to be the husband of Dame Helen Mirren. So she was walking around in the background.
She just popped on. She just
She kept hopping in and in the background. We're like, who is that? And then all of a sudden, Taylor's like, somebody would like to say hello who's been hanging around here a little bit. And she was like, she pops in, she goes, hello, boys. I'm just
where can I find this video? Is it on?
It's on our Blood In, Blood Out.
Right here. Just go to Midnight's Edge and search for Blood In, Blood Out. You'll find it right away. That whole round table. It was amazing.
Yeah, so we're doing that again with the whole angle, Cameron, is that it's a reunion of a vintage movie or a classic movie. In this case, we're going to do Stand and Deliver. Edward James almost mentioned that that's the focus he wants to do. I mean, hopefully we'll talk a little Galactica, maybe a little Blade Runner. He wants to stay away from American Me, which there's a lot of reasons for that. That makes sense. And it's a fundraiser for the LA Teatro group. We raised a good chunk of money last time, and we're looking to raise a lot more this time because now we really got some momentum going. So the second idea of Midnight's Edge Español is that we're able to bring some of the relationships that Pauly has, being a longtime Hollywood person and all that stuff in the Latino community, and bring that to Midnight's Edge as well. It's kind of like a cross. So the channels think the way to look at them is to give Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge in Español, and they're kind of working hand in hand to keep that whole international audience going. We're really excited about it coming up. And hey, and the other thing too is, hey, you don't have to speak Spanish to come on Midnight's Edge Español. I got to tell you, Tom and Andre have done a great job, and not exactly bilingual native speakers there.
Follow me. Don't listen to him. I can't speak a lick of Spanish.
Tom's whispering. Tom, you did fine. The way Latins are, Cameron, this in LA. If you even make an effort, hola, me llamo Cameron Pasha. Hey, man, we're like open arms. Come on down.
You have to be kind of bilingual to get by LA. I'm sure it's the same. It's still kind of true in Florida as well.
Yeah, it is. Although true to being of a Floridano descent, I can't roll an R to save my damn life. So
La Reina.
I had to I was at the bank yesterday, a couple of days ago, and I was talking to the security guard about when they were going to get the mask mandate off the banks, because technically the mask mandate in Los Angeles, California, ends on June 15th. Even though they could end it today, right? But it ends on June 15th, and so I asked her, but the security guard was Mexican American. He didn't speak any English, and so I had to fumble around in my very basic Spanish to get across what I was asking. But it was enough for me to get the impression that unfortunately the bank will continue to enforce mask rules even if the state doesn't require it, because they're so scared of somebody coming up and saying, I got sick here. So,
well, I can tell you out here in South Carolina, where I just recently moved from California, I have not seen a mask to save my life.
Yeah, that's how they do it down there.
Well, I just want to say this about the whole thing with Midnight's Edge Español, because it's been a hell of a ride so far, and we're just getting started. I mean, if you guys have not subscribed yet, I suggest you check it out. Like Mike was saying, you don't even have to speak Spanish, and I've gotten a lot of messages from people who are like, I'm learning Spanish, or I've been wanting to learn Spanish, and this is helping me. And I did not expect that.
Well, no, that's the best way to learn. Is to
exactly,
action, right? That's the best way to learn.
And that's just that's like, I guess you call it a side effect, because like I said, that wasn't even something that was even in my mind when we talked about this channel. And this whole great thing about this about the Stand and Deliver reunion we're working on is it kind of goes back to when Pauly and I first kind of started talking. So it's almost like this weird full circle thing. It was like we're almost like one step away from our initial dream of what got us to this point to begin with, because it was almost like timing was just perfect in the, you know, cosmos or whatever. Because Andre and I were discussing this, and I'm like, dude, if we're gonna do a Midnight's at Espanol channel, we got to bring Paulie in. Yeah. And I just gotten to know Paulie, and Paulie and I had bonded and over our love for La Bamba, which of course stars Lou Diamond Phillips. And we're like, you know what would be awesome? And this was before even talking about the channel, is if we could do like a La Bamba reunion. And so that was kind of like our original, like, you know, bonding moment of this whole thing. And then now we're kind of almost coming full circle now. Getting Lou Diamond was just like, you have no idea how, like, it was like almost like tears of joy kind of thing. It's like, we're almost there. Like we've something that we talked about months and months ago has now come to more fruition than we could ever have dreamed of. And yeah, we're just like that one step away from completing that dream.
And you're right, Tom, about some people like saying they're learning Spanish. Here's the funny thing. There was a study done a long time ago that if you want to learn a foreign language, especially something like Spanish, you know, 83% of everything that we say on a daily basis, you say over and over and over again. So if you just learn what those words are, I mean, you think, Cameron, you might say like, the movie studios or this, there's certain words that you say that are unique to you that say someone who's maybe a construction worker doesn't say every day. But so long as you learn, and it's funny, I've had some friends of mine who don't speak Spanish. They've come over to Midnight's Edge in Espanol. And because they've heard the same conversations about Star Wars and fandom and the studios, all of a sudden they're like, hey, did you guys just say da-da-da-da? I'm like, that's exactly what we just said. Yeah. So it's really great. We'll get you on the show and we'll have a great time. And yeah, as soon as you,
like I say,
everybody's welcome. It's going to be great. It's just like being here. You say this place is your home. If that's going to be your Latin home, the only difference between Midnight's Edge here is like, European food, and over there we got tacos.
Yeah, you got better. You got to get better food. That's great. And you got, while I love Norwegian women, I've been to Norway. I also very much love the Latinas. So it's all good. But I'd love to be just part of the family, period. But I also hope to be able to discuss, I've been developing for some time a television series set in Moorish Spain, right? El Andalus, the war between Ferdinand Isabella and the last
perfect place for it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would love
my God, let's feature it.
Let's discuss that show. Hopefully when I'm in a place to discuss it. On Midnight's at Espanol, because I think that would be very relevant.
Hey, if I'm just the producer, so if the bosses say go, then let's go and let's book it and let's get you on. And I think it'd be great to feature that storyline over there. What do you think, Andre?
It sounds like a plan. It's done. It's
cool.
Greenlit.
All right, well, that's all I had to say.
Stick around as long as you like. We love having you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to say
Mike, you're just one of our unsung heroes. We don't give you guys enough praise for all the work you guys have done over there so far, getting that channel to where it's at right now. Between you and Paulie and the other guys, it's just you guys are doing a great job. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Hey, we launched just 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? How long has it been exactly?
It was Cinco de Mayo, so we're just under.
Cinco de Mayo was the hard launch. So yeah, just under a month.
I should know that. I should remember that. I was driving on the road and stuff. But and the good news here too is like you guys, we've actually got a pretty decent sub count too over there. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I just subbed. I hadn't known the link. I just subbed right now, so you got over 300 already.
Yeah, we're really excited. That's amazing for like just not even a not even a month,
or just having. Here's like the thing though, because YouTube doesn't really start recommending and lining you up with other content creators. You start like showing up in recommended feeds before you hit that 1,000 and you start to become monetized, because that's the moment when YouTube has an interest in starting to promote the channel. So if anyone wants to go and help out to get there as quickly as possible, head on over to Midnight's Edge Espanol, subscribe, watch some content, practice a little bit of Spanish, because that's what it's going to take to get it to the next level, where YouTube actually starts putting it into people's recommended feeds.
Let me go sub right now.
And I just want to emphasize that June 10th, again, June 10th, I think it's good. Yeah, June 10th, 12 noon, we're going to be having Edward J. It's going to be right here on Midnight's Edge. June 10th, 12 noon Pacific.
Yes. And Jesse's probably saying some nasty stuff in the chat in Spanish. I was going to ask Mike to translate, and then I'm like, oh, shit, Jesse said it. So
we'll let something remain untranslated.
She is the Okay, I'm not going to translate that.
That's what I was just going to say. I don't even need you to. I know Jesse.
Let it float out into the world.
Who gave Jesse a wrench? How did Jesse get Jesse? I love you, but how did you get a wrench?
So our friend Paulie is actually in the chat and he's watching. He says he's watching while cleaning the house. So I fully say there's 1,000 people watching the show. I immediately went and subscribed, and when I saw the link, everyone please
Jesse, behave.
Go subscribe to Midnight's Edge Espanol.
Hey, I'd love
and the link is right there in the description, courtesy of Jesse.
So, Cameron, we'll follow up with you and get you booked. I can't wait to hear about the story that you have. I thought it was in development. I didn't know that you had it done yet. That'd be awesome.
It's not done yet. It's still in development. We've had some. I told Paulie about some of the dramas we had. We had a director and he created some drama on it recently. And so, but it is a project I haven't given up on. There's some other things happening with it. But I'd love to talk about.
Yeah.
Trying to develop that project in Hollywood and the challenges you face, where the industry is always about, the industry always saying we want a Game of Thrones for the Latino audience. I give them one, and then they're like, oh, well, now we don't want it. And so do you think that has
to do with the lack of historical knowledge about some of the actual facts? Because you have a commanding knowledge about the history. Do you think it has to do with like their ignorance about like actual historical events and what your story? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it more hopefully if I come on to the channel, but yeah, it is partly ignorance and partly it is there's a lot of complicated feelings about Muslims in Hollywood, largely negative, and so this is a portrayal of a great Muslim Christian civilization, Muslim Christian Jewish civilization being built in Spain. There's a lot of resistance to that, and we can talk about the political issues of why people in Hollywood would want to resist, for all their talk of liberalism and promoting open societies, why they would want to resist showing an open society where the three religions got along really well in Spain. And we can talk about those politics of why that's been so challenging, because I've had multiple Oscar level and actually one double Oscar winning director attached to the project, and each time they've had to drop out because of pressures. And I can talk about that.
Wow.
Because it's an amazing thing when you've had somebody who has 2 Oscars who's just won a couple of Oscars in a row, and then he has to drop out because the agent's like, you don't want to be involved with this. So we can talk about that. And I'd love to talk about those politics.
Sounds like a Midnight's Edge video right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Midnight's Edge videos, for those who know, not to change subject real quick here, Conan the Barbarian is one of our big things here, of course. Yeah. And our buddy Douglas Nelson, who does great artwork from time to time for us. In fact, he helped us recently with the Highlander video. He did the Henry Cavill version of Highlander, but he also does other stuff too, like drawings, as he did a drawing here of Andre as Conan.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. Loved it.
Oh, we need a drawing of Andre as Highlander. I am immortal. The blood of Midnight's Edge runs through my veins.
As a fan of the 13th Warrior, yet again, Andre looks just like the great warriors that fought alongside Ibn Fadlan, right? So it's great.
The thing is, though, is it just doesn't sound the same as Christopher Lambert when he's like,
so
there can be only one. When Andre says it, it's like, there can be only one.
That picture is so historic, so accurate, because you know how like on Andre's avatar, his hat is like, or his crown is like tilted right there. His this
is artistry. They took the time to do it right.
That is brilliant. I love Nelson.
Thank you
awesome.
for that.
There's only one way it gets better, and that's if we have a lightsaber.
I'm sure someone could do a lightsaber version of that.
Yeah, that has to be Tom. I mean, I'm much more into Conan than I am Star Wars. So give me cold, hard steel any day.
I'd rather have a nunchuck than now. See, I'm more the one.
You know what? If you're my enemy, I'd rather you have a nunchuck too, because that's more dangerous to the user than it is to me.
You don't know that. See, if the user knows how to use it, you'd be surprised.
Well, you watch Bruce Lee with those. He was taught by his sparring partner, who was Filipino American, right? Down in Osanto, he was taught how to use those. He didn't know how to use those, and when you see him use those with such fluency in the movies, it's incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say there's only one weapon that can technically combat the nunchaku correctly if used right.
Yeah, exactly. But that's if used right. And it's been a long time since Bruce Lee.
I'm from the school. I know what I'm talking about.
have I ever shared with you my experience of pitching a Bruce Lee resurrection movie?
No, go for it.
You want to hear this? This is how dumb.
Absolutely.
So after I'd worked on Tron, right? On the Tron anime series, at that time, it was very new facial technology that was done to make Jeff Bridges look young. For the Clue character, the Avatar in the Tron sequel movie, right? And so if they were still developing that technology, but Hollywood was very, very excited that they had found a way to have this facial technology that could de-age actors, as we've now seen, right? And so, and also potentially bring back actors that were passed away. And so I was approached, and this was by one of the major studios. This wasn't like a little production company. It was a major studio. One of the executives approached me and said, we want to develop a movie that resurrects Bruce Lee using this technology. We'll get an actor with martial arts thing, and we'll use the technology to put Bruce Lee's face on him, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to resurrect him. Okay. And I said, okay. And they're like, we're going to do this with Will Smith. So
basically a deep fake Bruce Lee is what you said.
That was the thing. And so I was approached. This must have been over 10 years ago when the technology was really young, right? But I was approached, and they said they want someone to come in with a take where Will Smith can interact with Bruce Lee, and as a ghost essentially, right? And I said, okay. So I came up with a take. I did a lot of research, and I came up with this thing of how Bruce Lee is part of this long lineage of ancient sort of martial arts masters, and that every master passes on to the next lineage, and that in his death, the official story of his death, it was a health issue, right? But there's been a lot of mystery around it, and people have asked a lot of questions. Was that actually how Bruce Lee died? So in this movie, it would have been that he actually had been taken out by one of these evil sort of occult forces, Chinese tongs that he was fighting, and they made it look like it was a natural death. But he passed. In the pitch I came up with is Bruce Lee passed on before he could pass the torch to the next generation, which would have been this young boy, this young African-American kid who was the chosen one for that generation, right? And so that kid, Will Smith, would grow up not knowing that he had this destiny to be this grand master of this lineage, and Bruce Lee's spirit would come back from the other side to teach him, right? Sort of like Obi-Wan, okay? So I came up with what I hope would be a very respectful, because Bruce Lee is a huge icon for me, and he's a global icon. I mean, people take him very seriously, and, he's like a religious figure to a lot of people. And so I came with a very respectful way to use him as this character that guides Will Smith to become this grand martial arts master, because he didn't have a chance to do it when he was alive. Okay. And so I came in, and the exec was really excited by the pitch. He's like, this is a really sophisticated pitch. It's the best one we've got. Come in. And so I met with one of the top executives at the studio, and he sat there, and I pitched it all out and the whole journey, and tied in Bruce Lee's life, and made it all make sense. Right. And he sat there, and after I finished, he's looking at me and goes, yeah, that movie is too serious. We just want to do a dumb buddy comedy. We want Bruce Lee to be, the sort of the butt of the joke of this.
Oh my God.
And I stared at him. I wish I stared at him, and I actually got angry. I got angry in the room, which is not a good idea when I'm trying to get a job, right? And I got angry. I sort of turned red-faced because I couldn't believe. I've dealt with stupid people in this town, but he's saying we just want Bruce Lee to be the butt of the joke, because this town is very racist behind closed doors. They say it without thinking, right? And so I couldn't believe, that we want Will Smith to be the hero, and Bruce Lee's going to be a bit of the bumbling sort of, Kato sidekick from the other side.
And I thought this was a good idea.
I looked at him, and I suddenly became angry, right? As a Bruce Lee fan, I became angry, and I said, you're going to be laughed out of this town. You know how many people are going to offend with that version of the movie? This movie is going to blow up in your face if you're going to do something like that. I said it with such anger and vehemence that the meeting stopped. And the exec's like, all right, well, it's time for you to leave now. And I just got up and I walked out. And I was like, I can't believe you would say this, that you want him to. And regrettably, I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino, and you and I, Tom, have argued about this, but some people were offended by the way Bruce Lee was portrayed in this most recent movie.
I think it was fairly accurate from shit I've heard.
Whatever, fine. You and I can argue about that. I can see why people were offended by that. But what he wanted to do was a whole level beyond that. It was literally to make Bruce Lee, and this is why Bruce Lee left Hollywood. He said he left Hollywood because he was tired of being the butt of the joke. Mm-hmm. And he left because he, they even stole his idea for Kung Fu and gave it to a white guy, right? I mean, they stole his work. And he's like, I'm done with this town. They don't respect me. And then he goes off to Hong Kong, and he makes these legendary movies that are transcendental, that will be great movies 200 years from now, right? And so I have never gotten angry in a meeting. I got angry in that meeting, and I literally exploded at the guy, and I was essentially escorted out of the studio.
Right.
Wow. That's the town. That's Hollywood.
And as far as the whole, like that's ridiculous that they would. I'm not really a fan of anybody resurrecting any character like that, but I mean, yeah, you still, if you can come up with a really cool idea that works, I mean, yeah, well, that's just too bad.
Yeah, and of course, what a surprise! It never got made.
Right.
Yeah.
What a 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So Cameron, I have an interesting angle. Well, to me, it's interesting. I don't know if it's interesting to the people in the chat stream, but with you tell that story, and then with the stuff that's going on, and constantly rehashing different storylines and blowing them up and missing the mark and yada yada. Do you think that there might be a resurgence of that independent creativity? I mean, you look in the comic book world, and things went to hell in a handbasket, and now indie comics are really surging on a variety of levels. Do you think there might be that possibility of opening, or do the studios have so much of a lock on things that there's really no hope? But I kind of feel like maybe there might be some hope.
And I would love to actually hear Lorena's perspective on this as well, because I've talked a lot here, and it's not fair to everyone on the panel. But I will say that I do believe there is hope. In fact, look, an independent person is not likely to be able to finance a $100 million movie, but they can finance a solid, smaller movie, and that solid number is getting higher from like $100,000. I know somebody who made an independent film that was raised, crowdfunded for $100,000 and got theatrical distribution by Universal, right?
Well, you're getting,
it's called The Tiger Hunter. It's like a comedy in the 70s about an Indian American guy who comes from India, who's works at a zoo or whatever, and a young Muslim girl from UCLA raised $100,000. I gave her like $50, not thinking it was going to go anywhere. She got a professional screenwriter with that money, filmed it, and it was so good that Universal distributed it theatrically, right? And it wasn't a huge theatrical run, but now she's a working director in the studio system. So that is more than possible. It will take time for independents, and I don't know that independents will ever make massive budget movies, but they don't need to, right?
Well, that's what bothers me, and that's what I've been saying for a while is where's the money going? Because we are in a situation now where you can literally make a movie that looks like Hollywood quality with your phone and off-the-shelf software for editing, special effects, all that kind of crap, and do it in half the time with not even a fraction of the people it used to take. We could go out in our backyard and basically remake Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever, make it look almost professional. And why is it we live in a world where we can do that, but yet there's this gate that's being kept? And that's where I've said I can't believe we haven't gotten to the new independent revolution. We're due for it. It happens every 30 years. Yeah, go ahead.
The unions are part of it. I mean, the unions are part of it. Like, and I'm a member of the union, the Writers Guild. I mean, there are,
and that's something I brought up too. Yeah,
there are very specific, financial minimums, but the SAG and the other guilds have lower minimums for if you want to make an independent film. The moment you cross like essentially $1 million budget, those numbers start rising real high, right? And then suddenly everyone's salary goes into it. And and I think the unions in Hollywood have been critiqued by a lot of their members. I certainly have critiqued my own, and they're going to go through some interesting changes, whether they like it or not, in the next 10 years.
Fascinating.
And somebody brought up lighting, and we lost Andre. He probably lost internet. That's all right. He'll be back. But yeah, no, John, lighting is expensive, but it's not as expensive as it used to be. Like for film is very expensive. Digital, you can use natural light.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing of
there's filters you can use in digital to alter light and all that.
Yeah. So like it's totally like we are in a point right now where you can almost do just about anything your imagination can come up with, as long as you have a good idea and know how to execute it and get a little bit of help. You can really make something that looks like it was $100 million movie for a couple $1,000. Like, it's not that difficult. Look at some of the fan films that are out there now coming out. Like even that Bucketheads. Yeah, sure. There's some things where it wears its limited budget, but in certain areas it's like, holy shit, this is fan made.
Yeah, with all the technology that's out there, the barrier to entry is lower. And I would hope that we would see more independent films and ideas, because it's very obvious. Hollywood just seems to be rehashing the same thing, or doing a remake, or doing a reboot, or doing sequels that no one really freaking cares to see. I think it's just the barrier of trying to keep those independent ventures out. But I don't think they can hold them back for very long, because these ideas escape, they catch the attention of the right people, and then word of mouth just spreads.
Yeah. It's it's going to change. I mean, look at all the things that Mike has said, are real. We're going to have these fundamental changes coming to the system, this whole world has been shaken up in the last year, and it's actually a good thing at the end of the day, despite the fact of not being a fun process for any of us. The industry is changing. One of the things that I've noticed is that the very things that the industry tried to stop for the last couple of decades that I've endured are no longer stoppable. I'll give you an example. I've talked about how in television, I've developed and pitched shows that are focused on, history, Middle Eastern history, European history, and they're often targeted towards a large part of the world that isn't American and European, right? The industry has resisted those shows, like my Moorish Spain show, for years. And amazingly, in the last year, because of the events that happened, because of the rise of the streamers in power, the streamers' economic model, Netflix and all these models, their model is not to focus on content for the United States. Their model is increasingly more focusing on global content because their economic model is to get more subscribers. They've tapped out their subscribers in the US. Now they're tapping out in Europe. They got to get subscribers in Africa. They got to get subscribers in the Middle East and Asia and Latin America. They have to, in order to keep expanding their revenue base. And so their shows that the streamers are now interested in are largely ones that can appeal to a global audience, even if they're done in English. So this is what I've heard now from multiple very famous screenwriters, and I was shocked to hear this, that a TV pitch that went out literally 10 days ago with Bradley Cooper and Meryl Streep attached to this TV series. Bradley Cooper and Meryl Streep did not get a single offer. Everyone expected a bidding war. Everyone passed on it because it was seen as too American oriented. They said there's people in Europe aren't that interested in this. People in Africa aren't going to watch this, even if Meryl Streep is involved. So we're going to pass. And that was a shock to the system. That was 10 days ago. The industry is still talking about it because how can it be that Meryl Streep and Bradley Cooper can't sell a TV series right now? It's because the stories have to become global now, which is why Midnight's Edge is wisely also expanding globally with the Espanol.
Yeah, but see, that's not. Here's the thing, and this is the problem I keep hearing, and this goes back to the whole thing with China we were talking about last week. The biggest issue they're having there is, okay, fine, you want that Chinese money, but you're not even giving them what they want. They want the same thing that most of us want, and that is just plain old original American fucking entertainment. Yep. There's a reason why it is Hollywood. There's a reason why we know it when we get into a Hollywood movie, why everybody else who comes from other countries, when they go to the theater and they go to see an American movie, they have expectations going into that. If everything's going to look like everything else, then who gives a shit? This is what pissed me off about Parasite winning the Oscars. I'm not saying anything about the movie. I'm not even saying the movie's bad or anything like that. It won I think, didn't it also win in the best foreign category as well? Yep. If not, that's where it should fucking be. Idea. And that's fine.
Well, and that was a political choice. It was a political choice.
And I get that. And I know they've always been bended rules with British movies and stuff like that in the past. But even that, I'm kind of like, well, that should technically be in the foreign category. And that's what pisses me off about the Oscars. And I'm not trying to rant, but it's like, whatever happened to good old classic American fucking entertainment? Like, why does everything have to be so
simple? It's just like Cameron said. It's just that the audience is global right now, and if the appeal is just in America, it's not. That's for a streamer. They're looking at the
but I don't walk into a Mexican restaurant expecting fucking Asian food. That's my point.
Okay, producers. So what? Okay, so we've hit an issue here, which is a nationalist issue, right? And number one, people in Hollywood are stupid. They don't know what stories appeal to Americans or to Europeans or anyone else. So let's just make that clear, right? They don't know, right? They don't know because they're not tapped into normal people's lives, right? They would be shocked to discover that Midnight's Edge has Midnight's Edge Espanol and we're all friends. They don't understand that because they see the world as bifurcated and and all that. They see the world as ghettos, right? That's how they see it. And understand as well, Tom, that the stories that are coming in that they think are American-based aren't good stories anyway either, because the biggest problem is exactly what you're saying, which is that universal storytelling has been lost. But I do believe in a positive way, because Hollywood is now thinking in terms of how do we get people worldwide to watch this, and they're thinking in terms of ethnic and nationalist divisions, right? They will accidentally are bumbling into universal storytelling again, right? They're bumbling into it in the process. It's not coming out of their racist agenda. It's not coming out of their globalist worldview, but they're going to bumble into it by accident, because the last decade has been attempting to change American and European culture based on an ideology, and then the belief that, well, the rest of the world is a bunch of idiots, so they're just going to follow this ideology when nobody wanted it, right? So now we're shifting in another way. This will be a good thing in the longer run for storytelling. It'll bring us back to universal storytelling.
Yeah, and I just don't get it. And universal storytelling. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Please.
I just feel like it's Tommy, you and I have talked about this before another time. Like when did someone start thinking that I didn't like white people no more? I mean, like I never saw race as a kid. When I was getting bullied at school, what? Star Trek. William Shatner was I grew up in a single mom household. Okay, William Shatner was basically my stepdad. Okay. I mean, he basically was my stepdad. Like, I came home, I was a latchkey kid. Star Trek was on every day on KTVU. It was on every afternoon at 3 o'clock, again at 6 o'clock, 2 different episodes. It was KTVU. It was an independent channel back then, before it turned over to Fox. And I would, you know what I mean? That's where I learned how to kind of be manly a little bit. I was a little kid. It's where I learned how to be, treat women properly and stuff. You'd be like, hello. Maybe that's where I got my cheesy kind of flirty ways, and then Star Wars Luke Skywalker, when I got bullied and did have some incidents in school, that's where I got the courage long before I could afford lightsabers like I do now. I grabbed a stick and protected myself when I got jumped after school, and I wanted to be, I saw myself like Luke, weak and, not, very like a boy, and becoming a man and standing up to Darth Vader and evil. And I never saw race in any of this stuff. I never have, and this institutional racism, I never seen it, never had it, and didn't stop me from getting into Stanford and Oxford, being darker brown. I mean, hell, I'm as dark as a freaking cedar tree. Never had any issues. I just don't understand when Hollywood started thinking that I stopped liking white people. I love white people. What the hell?
Well, no, that's a great example.
Why can't I see white people on TV?
Can I say this? Can I say this? In a TV show I worked on recently, I won't name the show, a TV show I worked on recently, the boss was incredibly woke, and I just had to sit there biting my tongue because, it didn't ultimately work. I didn't survive the show, right? But I did my best to hide my my perspective. The boss is just woke, preachy crap all day long, right? And finally, after the umpteen time in the writer's room, and remember, the writer's room is, there's a bunch of white people. They're all talking bad about white people, right? And so I was like, after the writer's room, I heard yet another screed on the white male and how we're not finally. I literally did this. I actually did this. I raised my hand in the writer's room and I said, I just want to make a comment. I like white people. And everyone burst out laughing, right? But I wasn't joking because I was like, here, I'm a minority and I'm done with this.
It's like
crap in the room all day long. It's such a bore.
It's like and I hate this. It's like they expect, we're just supposed to hate white people. And there's something I kind of want to say to Mike's point. I tell people it is perfectly fine to see race. We're not blind. We're not blind at all. The problem that comes in, it's exactly it. It's different. And Hollywood didn't used to be that way. It wasn't that, white people were all bad or whatever. And you had, different races out there. There is nothing wrong with seeing race. Like I tell people, there's nothing wrong with representation. The problem comes in when you start judging people based on race. That's the issue. So that's why I really don't like this whole colorblind thing, because I think it's illogical, as Spock would say. We have eyes to see. They're all out there. But now the money seems to be on, demonizing white people. I grew up watching television with all kinds of different races of people. One of my most favorite shows, In Living Color, you had everybody in the
cast. Jim Carrey, he was introduced to the world on that.
Exactly, through that. And there were so many kids, didn't matter, all kinds of races. We liked the show. Why? Because it was funny, and Saturday Night Live was not. And that's why we watched it.
I remember Jim Carrey getting so much shit because he wasn't black.
Yeah, I heard that too. But it's just like he was so funny and, just seamlessly with everyone. Oh, God, fire Marshall Bill.
Marshall Bill is iconic.
What if somebody were to leave just a bunch of gasoline laying around here and I were to trip over it and spill it and then just happen to light a cigarette? Have it explode.
That was up there with living in a van by the river on SNL. That was one of the few good one of the few good iconic moments from those days on SNL.
And Andre has no clue what we're talking. He may, I don't know if it's, either one of those really. In SNL, I know we didn't make it over.
Yeah, no, I checked out when you said SNL. So
yeah, I don't know about In Living Color if that made it over there either. So.
No, actually, that did not make it over here. But as I've already said, I was on vacation, or the first time I was in America was in the summer of 1995. And I remember when we were the 2 weeks in Virginia, and that's where I was like first introduced to American TV, because in the hotel we had like cable with HBO and everything like that. And there I specifically remember In Living Color, because I was on at the time. I don't know if it was a rerun or what, which was probably a rerun because Jim Carrey had moved on by then. But anyway, I saw the reruns there, and I remember like it was like the episode with the parody of the Michael Jackson music video.
Oh, that's a good one.
Black and white.
Black or white.
So I saw that parody there, and I thought it was freaking hilarious. So I was a fan of In Living Color. And I know that's also where Jennifer Lopez started out.
Yeah.
Back when she was still Jennifer on the Block, before she had to be like driven in a limo from one
I woke up
locale
with
to the other.
came on. I was awake. Fly Girls, it's time. Let's
yeah. No, but it was funny.
Yeah, no, I know In Living Color.
Depending on the year,
concept of
what
SNL
year was it?
as well.
Because
it's just that it's not any funny anymore. But
believe it or not,
great back in the day.
Jim Carrey stuck with the show for quite a while. He did out most of his contract. Like they finally let him out of his contract. I think the last bit of one of the last couple of years, but I think they only did like one whole season without him, and that was it, if I'm not mistaken.
That's about right.
Yeah, because he stuck through it.
Yeah,
he was loyal, and they let him out because he was so busy. But like, it was funny is I can't remember the skit, but it was early on. But he basically did Ace Ventura as a completely different character on that show. He's doing all the alrighty thens and all that kind of shit, and it's like that's Ace Ventura. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was great.
Scott is also pointing out that In Living Color was on Norwegian TV. Oh yeah, but I never saw it then. I did see Mad TV though. We did have that, so that I did see.
Mad TV's. I think Mad TV's one of their commercials. I think was. Do you remember when SNL was funny? They said neither did we.
Oh, yeah. Mad TV had moments.
I will say about Mad TV that they had the best parodies. Their parodies were fantastic, and their original content and their original characters sucked to high freaking heavens.
Yes, I agree. I hated Stewart and a couple other ones, but they predicted Jason going to space and a few other things on Mad TV. So
yeah, they were quite ahead of their time.
Space was inevitable. That actually wasn't a bad movie. I was surprised.
I like that movie.
Of all the going to space movies, that's least.
That was a really fun one. And
it had
very happy with
I love how the nanobots resurrect him. It's great.
Uber Jason.
No, that was a fun movie. I like that one. And so Mad TV, fantastic parodies, especially the Wizard of Oz parody. My God, I can't believe that was on TV at the time that it was allowed. If you go to YouTube and you check out the Mad TV Wizard of Oz parodies, I mean that would never have been allowed today. How they make fun of the Tin Man for being gay and everything like that.
Well, I mean the thing is the pivotal thing of comedy, which is why we've lost comedy, is that we're all idiots. All of us are idiots. We all deserve to be made fun of because that shows us our humanity. And the idea is you can't make fun of X, Y, and Z. You can't make fun of Pakistanis. I mean, come on, man. I grew up with Muslim jokes. You got to be able to laugh at some of them, right? I mean, I prefer the Muslim jokes than to some of the crap that people gave me on Twitter a few weeks ago, right? And because a joke is a connection with humanity.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between doing something mean-spirited and it actually being a joke. Like, I don't know, I can't remember the exact one you're talking about, Andre, but I'm assuming the whole point of the joke was the Tin Man was just in denial that he was gay. Nobody else had a problem that he was, but that was the joke, I bet, right?
Well, that was part of it. Really, it was a matter of I haven't seen it in years, but I think it was a matter of like the the lady being angry at the fairy for telling her towards the end that, oh, you just have to click your heels together, and she was like, well, I could have done this the whole time.
Oh yeah, we all
I
said
could be
that.
here sleeping in cross for all of these rapists. And then the Tin Man said, I didn't look at you sideways, and he was like, yo, believe me, I noticed that right away.
Well, no, but my point is that usually that's how a joke is set up. If you're doing something mean-spirited, it's differently. But like, that's the thing is we're afraid to even do shit like that nowadays. But Lorena, I know you have to go here, so I want to give you a moment to say goodbye.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much for having me here. As always, Cameron, good to see you. Good to finally see you on stream, Mike. Yeah. Yes, please definitely do check out Toxic Femininity tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Our main topic, basically, we're going to talk about Jeff Bezos buying MGM and all these properties that they've said that they're going to reimagine. So we're kind of going to be talking about that, and also talking about how Heavy Metal Magazine for some reason is into customer no service.
Oh yeah, I saw them fighting. I saw them fighting with Twitter fans.
Yeah, we have a video coming about that.
Okay. I'm mad. I came that late.
Kept going. They kept going saying, "Get lost. We don't want you." I was like,
yeah.
I'm looking at the Twitter stream too.
Yeah. Lorena, let's have a talk about that before you go live. So yeah,
okay.
Fill you in some details.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, because that was my big question, or not big question, but the thing I noticed about this whole thing, and Lorena, if you have to go, that's fine. But I was just noticing, like, yeah, like this goes right along with that same rhetoric a lot of the other ones are. It's like, we don't need these old fans. We don't want you. It's like, do you not hear yourselves? It's basically you're painting a bunch of people as a bunch of racist istophobes. They haven't learned a gall darn thing.
No,
and this is right on the heels of the announcement of the Heavy Metal series or deal or whatever. Where was it? Netflix, Andre, right?
Yeah. Well,
and we were talking about that.
It's not really announced, I think. Like, we may know something, but I don't think it's been announced. So let's be careful with that.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say, we know some things about it, but like, that's sad because, anyway.
Yeah, so everyone rewind and forget you wrote that.
Goodbye, my lady.
God bless.
No, we talked about it because we talked about it on the show, but I'm pretty sure that part's been announced.
I don't remember what's been announced.
The parts that we know are the people that are involved with it, I think. But anyway.
Yeah, has it been announced, or did we just blow something?
The show
I think you guys just talked about it. I haven't heard anything about it being announced, but no, I mean,
I'll look. If not, there you go. We gotta plug.
What we should talk about is how Tom really feels about Star Wars. I'm kidding. We're not going back there.
I know. Honestly, though, I love Star Wars. Always have. The first 3 movies will go down as, the greatest movies of all time. But I've never been that big on the prequels, and then the way the sequels have been and everything else we've gotten, I've just been so turned off. But I mean, growing up, I was a huge Star Wars fan. I wore out just about every single copy of the Star Wars trilogy up through the THX editions.
Wow.
And I started with like ones taped off of television, if that tells you anything. And I've had just about every version that ever came out. So,
well, Tom, when you come visit me to South Carolina for that vacation we talked about, I'm willing to give you complimentary free lightsaber training at my place, because I have a collection of about 23 of them. And just
I saw you kicking Paulie's ass.
Yeah. Ooh, what a fun show this has been. Man, I'll bet you guys didn't think it was going to go this long when you had this many people on Memorial Day, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm surprised we have that many people watching, but that is absolutely brilliant that we have. So thanks for sticking with us. And we have a couple of super chats that we have to go through as well. So
guys, I'm going to fade out. I got to take care of a couple of things, and then
yeah, of course. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, and Cameron, great seeing you, great being on stream with you, and Tom and Andre, great job as always. And hey, a salute to everybody, past and present, on this great Memorial Day here in the United States. Thanks for your service, and see you guys soon. Thanks for everything. See you over at Midnight Edge Espanol. Bye.
Yes, check out Midnight Edge Espanol tomorrow. Be sure to do that.
Oh, and June 10th.
Yes, and of course, main channel June 10th for our incredible reunion panel. with some all-star cast. So there will be plenty more information about that, posters and everything. So do check that out. Cameron, do you have a couple of more minutes?
Yeah, I got about 10 more minutes, and I think then I
He does not. He froze.
Yeah, I was about to say, did Cameron froze or did my internet
No,
freeze?
he froze. I was pretty sure at that moment he froze because the chat is still moving. So
yeah,
crap.
Well,
hopefully he'll be back.
hopefully he will be back, and if not, he is always with us in spirit, and our door is open when he does come back. But
while
moving
we're
on,
waiting, let's
chats.
As I say, let's grab some super chats like this one from STR.
Yeah, exactly. And he says folks should folks should use the force and push the like button. Very sound advice there. Everyone, please do that. Help us get to 1,000 likes, since we have more than 1,000 people still watching. And then let's see what more we can get here. There we have Cameron back again.
So I froze. That was strange, but okay, whatever. Yeah,
it happens. But yeah, we have a couple of super. I think there were a couple of super chats that was aimed at you, which is why I wanted to take a couple more minutes. But the ones that we can get up on screen, R3 Kato R77 says for €20. Thank you so much. So many incredible books, and Hollywood keeps recycling the same stories. Forever War is an amazing book. R. Scott was bound to do it, but never got made. And yeah, there are some amazing books out there, but it should be said, though, there are many, many original things coming from Hollywood. It's just that people don't watch it. It's a little bit our fault as audience as well.
But I will say I'm so happy to see an original movie and now an original franchise like A Quiet Place becoming so influential, because that was purely an original movie. I actually went to a special screening of the original Quiet Place where John Krasinski and the screenwriter showed up. So I was like, wow, they're there. And they talked about how it was basically a spec script. The two screenwriters were like, I think they had watched that movie that won the Oscar with a silent film, right, recently. And they're like, can we do a silent film today, right? Okay, is there a way to do a horror film as a silent film? And they came up with it purely on their own creatively. They got it, John Krasinski, and that's something that was generated from the ground up. And look what it has done. It has created a franchise, and it has actually woken Hollywood up and resurrected the theater industry single-handedly.
Yeah, that's old school innovation, though. That's where somebody said, well, what if you had a situation where this? And then a whole idea sprung from that. And that's the way these things used to be. It never used to be, oh, we got this IP, let's make a fucking movie out of it. Yeah. You know, it even comes almost kind of from the old Robert Rodriguez school of, you know, make what you know and what you have. And that's kind of what that is like, okay, I want to tell this interesting little story, and I know I don't need $10 billion to do it. I can do it on the cheap. And, you know, it turned out to be this huge hit for them. And now it's a new franchise. And that's what it used to be. And that's why the 80s were so lucrative with franchises, or however you want to put it, was because you got all these great original ideas that spawned a dozen sequels, and that's what we've lost in Hollywood for sure.
Well, and I've watched the culture of it, but I'm watching the culture of it change. In the 20 years that I've been there, when I first arrived, we were already deeply enmeshed in the culture, which had really begun in the 90s. You're right, Tom. It was in the 80s that we still had the Terminator and stuff like that. Just new stuff nobody thought of was being thrown out and created, right? And then in the 90s, his partner, right, Don Simpson. And so when he was one of the great entrepreneurs of the industry, right, and when he left, the rise of sort of the people, again, the next generation that started coming in that just had all this flush cash, needed some kind of underlying IP. And the only reason for it, the argument was, well, we need that we can use. I was like, but this is like my thing. I created this. We don't need to go get an underlying book. So the producers, this was surprising to them because they went to all this trouble. They called a bunch of authors and agents trying to get various books that were allegedly the origin of the idea of the thing I had already written, right?
Classics right away. Ready Player 3 says, classic Trek should be the goal. Geordi, Uhura, Sisko, and Chakotay. Their skin color wasn't an issue. They were good characters united in common purpose.
Just children, right? Buried underneath the school. And so, yet Chakotay wasn't about that. He wasn't about
certainly a great character. And then we have one for you here, Cameron. I'm just jumping back a little bit since I have to jump back anyway. Organic Vistas, thank you. And he also says, recently grabbed 2 of Cameron's books.
Oh, wow.
Enjoy all the previous appearances with Cameron, because there his links and his webpage will already be. And I'm sure Natasha already can bring that up in the chat as well. But Organic Vistas also says, Ed Wood could have made a better Star Wars movie than Rian Johnson.
Well, there'll be more part of it. Ed Wood loved what he was doing. He loved it. Even if he didn't succeed, he loved what he was doing. He loved his characters, right? And that's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also says, and a sequel with an Angora-dressed Chewie in lieu of yak fur. Yeah, but you'd get the heart right. And finally, Organic Vistas asks, will Lucas buy back in to control Star Wars, and how many billions would that generate for Disney? Seems like a no-brainer for the mouse post KK. I don't know that Lucas will have to buy back in. I think that they would want his services without having to buy anything. It would just be shifting money anyway. But yeah.
You know, Doomcock had, I think, announced through one of his sources that there's talk that Lucas is buying back into Lucasfilm, putting his money into it. I don't know that for sure. I haven't heard that from my contacts, but I have predicted that would happen for a long time. I think we said that in the last time when we were on with Doomcock. I predicted that it would happen years ago, because that's the logical thing. George Lucas, his entire identity was breaking free of the studio system, and by having the toy rights and the billions of dollars he earned from that, he was able to make the second, third, and the remaining Star Wars with his own money and made them the way he wanted to. So it remains one of the great mysteries why he chose to sign it away. But I've always believed, because his defining character has been, this is my baby and I'm going to discount. He's a brilliant businessman. So if you remember, that's exactly what happened with Power Rangers. Haim Saban, who really exploded that franchise and became a billionaire from it, sold it to Disney back in the 90s. And then Disney tanked the brand. And 10 years later, he sold it for, I believe, $3 billion to Disney. It's like a $2.9 billion profit for him. And Power Rangers has come back, right? And so what happened? And this is his life legacy, his legacy through history. I've always believed, because he is a multi-billionaire, and if he sold it for $4x billion, want to have some kind of legal, financial power over the franchise again, so that he's not shut out when the next woke idiot comes in and starts screwing around. I think, as a man who understands
conference, so, yeah. And moving on from that, yeah, I'm on Robert Meyer's Burnett show every Sunday. It's us good entertainment, not agenda.
Yeah, and that is right. Before that, we used to be the good guys in like the Alibaba movies or whatever, Aladdin movies. Then we became the bad guys. And it's divisive. It was just making stories. It became intentionally divisive over time, which has culminated into where we have been in the last decade. And I think it's reached the end of its journey for that. Now, like I said, it's
very, very cool. So yeah, but let's hope that happens. That they reveal. Christian Coralejo, who says, for someone who has several ideas.
Is this a question on creativity and that process? Is that what this is? This there, right? Because I'm trying to pay my rent like everybody else, right? So I'm like, all right, that historical epic set in the Islamic world, and that's like tailored to what I think the market wants at that day, and those don't sell either. Because I'm not one of these. My novels are written from the point of view of women, right? And so I'm not one of these people. But I will say is write what you love, right? You don't have to know it. You can research it. But it has to come from love. And when the James Bond books, you can tell Ian Fleming loves this world and loves this character, right? And you can feel it as you read the text. So focus on whatever you love.
A look right there. And Polly just says that back to the classic super chats, or is there one we can bring up on screen? I think I saw. Yeah. Sorry, I'm sure I butchered that. Sorry about that, but thanks for the donation. And he says, what if the Star Wars sequel trilogy was directed by Spielberg or Timothy Zahn? Now, I don't know if Timothy Zahn has ever directed anything other than written the Thrawn trilogy, but if you had Steven Spielberg directing based on the movies by Timothy Zahn, I think we would be in good hands.
We would be. I mean, I will say this. I'm going to say the blasphemy. I'm a big fan of Mr. Spielberg's earlier work. I think the last few years haven't been at the quality of the greatest work he's ever done. and a few movies in a row that aren't at the highest quality level are a little sad. And so I don't know if he's just exhausted or, or where we are with his journey, but I would actually like to see a Star Wars directed by Peter Jackson, right? Because I think Peter Jackson understands universal storytelling. He understands character. He understands epic scope and intimate storytelling. So that's the version that I'd like to see. So yeah, I mean, and I don't think from what I've read of the histories of the complex relationship between Spielberg and Lucas, they worked together on Indiana Jones. But I don't know that Lucas would appreciate Spielberg doing Star Wars, and I don't know that Spielberg would appreciate doing a Lucas project like that. That's his, he wants to have his own. They developed Indiana Jones together, but that's Lucas's baby, and I don't know that Spielberg would want to step into that.
That's kind of that latter version is kind of the story I've heard in the past, is that George has actually offered Steven a couple times to direct, like even as far back as Return of the Jedi. But then it was because of the guild thing, I think, got in the way. But Steven has always said that it's George's baby and he doesn't want to step on it, because he could have done like the prequels and all this other stuff too. And yeah, same thing. Like even Ron Howard was offered the prequels and he said,
and you know this? Ron Howard is my next door neighbor. I didn't know
that's fucking sweet. Tell him I know his brother.
I mean, I was told by somebody living in my area, Ron Howard next to you. There's this beautiful, beautiful condominium by the beach right next to me. I live by the beach, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm sure that's true. And then one day I'm just walking down the sidewalk in front of my home, and there's Ron Howard talking to somebody, and I almost bump into him. I was like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Howard. And like every now and then I'll just see him jogging at early morning in front of my window. I'm like, Ron Howard actually lives next to me. That's the most random thing. So I'm like, hey, Mr. Howard. So.
Oh, that's cool. And I see that people aren't too close to their neighbors in California, evidently. But
it's not New York City. Well, in New York City, we would never even talk to we would all be crammed together in an apartment. We never even said hello. So whatever.
Yeah. And also in reference to your previous excellent advice, Dragon Master 360 says to Kamran Pasha, as someone who wants to get into horror writing, thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, imparting
and horror is great. Horror is great because you can make a small horror budget movie like Saw, right? And become, a massive global hit from that, right? And horror will always have an economic return. And again, don't think in terms of economics, write what you love. But the best way to break into filmmaking has always been horror. That's true for screenwriters, it's true for directors, and it's true for actors. You have someone like Jamie Lee Curtis exploding because she's in the Halloween franchise, right? Horror has always been the way in.
Perfect.
And we'll see Quiet Place Part 2. The actors are the children in Quiet Place Part 2. You have that wonderful actress who's deaf, who's a teenage girl. She's going to have a huge career ahead of her because she's such a wonderful actress, right? And she's discovered in this horror movie.
Yeah, that was really, really good. So, excellent. Kamran, did you have a few more minutes, or you have to?
I can head out in about 5 more minutes, I think.
Okay.
So we why don't we go through the last of the super?
Yeah, let's go through the last ones and see if we can round out in that time. And the next one then is Chris Webb, who says Tim Dalton was the closest to the book Bond. I've heard that before. So, maybe. I certainly like the Tim Dalton movies myself, certainly the first of the two. Yeah. And Christian Saucedo says for $5, I hope business classes in the future teach that old hardcore fans are not supposed to be taken for granted.
Oh, they will.
Attacked for new fans. Yeah, you would hope so.
They will. I mean, I have a business degree, and I went back to my business school MBA class after The Last Jedi, and I gave a talk about that. And I said, this is going to be studied in this. Is I said back 4 years ago. This is going to be studied in business school cases of how to mishandle a franchise and how to drive away the customer base. So don't make these mistakes. And again, I was prescient because at the time everyone was lauding The Last Jedi, and I was like, this is going to destroy this franchise. And I gave a talk in business school about that.
Yeah. And those students will hopefully have learned, certainly since they see it unfolding, what you predicted live in front of us all. And then Marigo Ann says for £2 Young Guns think cosplay plus fan art pays enough. That's not going to work. That's not how reality works out there. So, yeah. Unfortunately, much of the industry and employment where people could get jobs before ain't in the Western world anymore. So yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, we've accelerated that process in the last year or so.
Yeah, and Merlin's id says for $10, that's why woke fails. It's an inability to take responsibility. They want all the reward with none of the risk. I have friends that do the "I'm sorry you feel that way" belligerent narcissists. So yeah, that's a good observation right there. Let's see. And then I believe.
Well, we just got a super chat from Duro on. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name.
Durao on. Yeah, that's close enough. And he says, "I'm about to go to sleep after this, but Mr. Pasha's energy is so contagious. Hi, everyone." So yeah, it's always a pleasure to have Cameron here. And I think we got everyone. No, we didn't. Here's a couple we missed. House Atreides said, "Hail MW." I don't recall exactly who that is right now, but anyway, he says that's
Midnight's Edge. It's Midnight's Edge. I think he just hit that.
Oh yeah, of course, has to be. Hail Midnight's Edge. There are 9 W agents. Why can't they use another 00 agent to go woke? Use 001, and they can say this character is 001, the bestest ever. Yeah,
I said that. Yeah. I said that when it was announced that they were going to have this lovely I guess she's African British actress, black actress who's going to play the new 007. They've given her his code number, and I said this is a mistake because despite whatever delusions they had at the time, Bond wasn't going to end, right? And it wasn't going to be the torch passed on to this actress, right, of 007. Whatever delusion someone in the system might have thought that was it, that's not going to be it. And I said, so what's going to happen is this actress will, in the final version of it, she's, and they're doing reshoots because whatever they didn't work for people. The final version of it is she's going to end up either surrendering her 007 number back to James Bond so that the franchise will continue, which is humiliating for this character. They've created, she's a black 007. Oh, we got to give the number up because we got to get the franchise back. Or they're going to kill her off. Either way, it's not great for that character. But that's what happens when you do this woke crap. Instead of making her 006 or 004 or whatever, and being this badass black woman who is this super secret agent, I could imagine that becoming its own franchise if she does a good job in this movie. But giving her the 007 puts her in a situation where she'll have to be eliminated. Either she'll be given a new job or she's going to be killed off. And that's what's going to happen. Let's see. I'm giving that prediction. Let's see when the final movie comes out, whether she's given a new job at the end, where she's promoted to some other thing that she's no longer 007, right? Or she's killed off. And because there will not be, James Bond is not going to have another movie where he's in retirement. He's going to be 007 again. And so I would love clip this. Let's see when the movie comes out. If I turn out,
I was about to say, if you. We have another clip here for when the movie comes out, and we know they're doing reshoots, so that should be real interesting to see. And then Peter Noble says, "I dislike the reimagined Galactica intensely. Many of the criticism you use against Rey can be leveled at Cara Thrace. Dirk Benedict all the way." That's a fair opinion to have.
It's a fair opinion. I loved the new Galactica on a very deep level. I've worked with the actress, right? And so on Bionic Woman, she was one of our stars, and so I won't criticize her. I do think it was a more complex character of Starbuck than Rey was.
For sure, she had flaws, and big ones.
She had flaws. She got herself into trouble. She made dumb mistakes, and she got killed. I mean, that's one of the strange things of the thing. Her character is essentially killed off and then resurrected in a mysterious way that even they don't explain properly on the show. And she's haunted by the fact, I mean, there's a great moment in the thing when she's returned, when we saw her character basically go into a planet and her ship explode, right? Then she's back a few episodes later and nobody knows how she's back. She doesn't know. And she opens her military locker and looks at a mirror and sees her face like burned and destroyed from the explosion. So, I mean, she's not invincible. And I personally love the show, but if someone doesn't, God bless them. It's fair opinion.
Exactly. And also on that note, Hypergiver 2 is fearing the worst and says, can't wait for a black lesbian Ragnar Lothbrok. Hopefully you'll have to wait for a little while. And says, love Midnight's Edge in Espanol y la Reina Creole. Yeah, indeed, so do we. And Morgan King says, for $5 Canadian, I just want to hear Andre say, in this house at Relia, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. And this, of course, he wants me to say in the Lovecraftian tongue, which he has written down for me. So, oh my God, I've never tried to say this before. Well, here goes nothing, I guess. Funglui Munglufna Cthulhu Relia Vaginala Fatagen. How was that?
Makes me want to go out and pillage.
Yeah, excellent.
It makes me want to clear my throat.
And then Action Com says for $10, some are saying that the woke is just beginning because many of the Looney Tunes coming out of college are getting jobs now. Would you say 2016 to 2020 is just the first round?
I call bullshit. Which one of them are getting jobs?
Yeah, that's my answer. I mean, I've seen them.
I'm kidding, but them actually getting jobs.
Yeah, Tom, you're right. And I've seen them. I mean, I've worked recently on a show where there was a lot of woke kids, right? And they didn't know what they were doing. They were very full of entitlement. They assumed that they should be the showrunner, having come right out of school with no experience, right? And while they were being sort of catered to for a little bit, eventually the economics hit, and one by one they were let go, and because they just didn't have the skills, right? But they had the arrogance. So that's the problem, is that these woke kids can't push their way into the system because they're not good at it, and they're too arrogant to see that they're not good at it. So I'm not worried about that. I mean, it's the fake woke executives at the top, like Ms. Kennedy, right, who are saying all the right things for the cocktail party, but don't believe any of it. They're the ones that are going to determine the future of Hollywood. And I think they've now decided that we can move on. We can move on from the woke conversation at the cocktail party onto other things.
Well, let's hope so, because otherwise we're in for a rough road ahead. Then says she misses Toys R Us as much, and Dwayne Aldson says you nailed both interpretations of Optimus Popeye, Tom. How does Olive Scream come out? In reference to what you said before.
That I can't do.
Oh, good, thank you. And Optimus Popeye. Yeah.
Oh, Popeye. That's the best you're gonna get. Yeah.
Yeah. And Optimus Popeye also said, "You nailed it, Andre. Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola, etc. were artists. Abrams and those of his ilk are politicians. No passion for telling good stories." So then I think that we're caught up on the classics. Okay. Just going to refresh and see if we have gotten any of the new ones today. Let's see. Yeah, we got a couple of new ones here that came in the meantime. I was going through the classics. Alex Acera says, as a bi-lefty, let RoboCop be true to his roots. Oh, then I take it you must have seen the thumbnail for tonight's Toxic Femininity. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what they'll do with RoboCop. So be sure to check out Toxic Femininity later tonight for more on that. And then XSL wonders, what were the topics every year of business school?
Well, I mean, I think every business school is different. I went to the Tuck School at Dartmouth, and the first year is very, very difficult. You have your standard sort of cost accounting, all that stuff that strategic courses. But basically, in a school like that, they essentially give you more homework than you can do individually, and that eventually forces you. They do it on purpose. And then you begin to realize that the purpose of that is to force you to start making teams with your classmates and start developing working teams to solve problems, because inevitably when you go to a business school like that, everyone there is an alpha who's succeeded on their own for a long time, right? And so suddenly they're in an MBA program at an Ivy League school or whatever, and they think they can do everything by themselves, as they have done throughout their careers. And then those schools are often set up to be places of intense pressure cookers to force them to collaborate. That certainly was true at Dartmouth. I believe it's true at Harvard Business School. I think other schools like Northwestern, which are excellent business schools, have a much more, and Stanford, I think, has a much more relaxed and laid back. Like, you've gotten the business school, just you don't need to have too much pressure. That was the hard part. I think those are different schools. I actually appreciated the intense experience of my business school because it taught me how the world is, because the world is crisis upon crisis, and you need to be ready for that.
Indeed. And with that, though, I do believe we are fully caught up. So with that, I want to say, Tom, you had something to say?
No, I was just saying we might as well wrap up the show.
That's
say
what
thank
I was
you
trying
to Cameron and Paulie and Lorena and Mexican Iron Man, who joined us as well today. And happy Memorial Day to all our American friends out there listening. And thank you all for all the super chats and support. We appreciate it. And that's all I had to say.
Yes, and again, also thanks to everyone watching. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to Paulie. Thanks to Mike, the Mexican Iron Man, to Lorena Griol, and of course, Cameron. It's always a pleasure when you grace us with your presence and your predictions as the soothsayer. So, door is always open to you. Brilliant.
The augur. I like the augur. We're going to go with augur, Sierra. We'll take all those.
The augur. We'll go with all of that. And now, as Natasha and others point out, Tom, it's time for some koalas in the rain.
Okay.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koalas in the rain.